Well, good evening, good evening, good evening to the members of the loyal opposition and to all of you that are watching the Marcia Week show this Monday evening. Today, January the 6th, I believe this would be the first Monday of 2025. Let me take this opportunity to wish you all a happy new year and trust that you had a great Christmas. I do know that I have been missing in action, so to speak, and there's a reason for that, to be honest with you. Just trying to, okay, just trying to, okay, just try to turn off one of my additional systems here. But I've been heavily involved in a production here in Barbados, and that took me out of my Mondays for a couple of weeks. But I know that Marcia has more than ably handled those nights that I wasn't able to be present with you. But let me take this opportunity to wish all of you a happy and blessed 2025. And I trust you had a great Christmas. I trust that you were able to spend good time with your friends and family. And for those of you who have gone through a difficult and challenging holiday, we want to extend our condolences if you have lost family members. We do know of several people, not many, but several people who lost family members during the Christmas season. And we know how difficult that is for persons to have to cope with and handle. So we do extend our condolences to you. And we do indicate to you our prayers in the midst of all that you are engaging and all that you are going through. But it's a pleasure of mine to be back with you tonight. I am going to be hosting a couple of the night shows. I think you would have seen on Friday, our young people. I believe on Sunday, we had the capable capacity of Maxine and our great host Glenn Murray in the sessions on Sunday, and that they will be assisting during the time. Of course, Marcia, you would have seen her posting a number of videos out of Africa, where she is today in the land of Kenya, and we certainly are praying for her safe return to Barbados. You know, these are not days that we can take for granted. The whole matter of persons returning home safely. Just a few days ago, we had a number well, we had one tragic aircraft accident. Um, I believe it was in Singapore. I think it was Singapore. I do stand to be corrected, and forgive me. I'm sure you'll help me out with that. Where we saw that aircraft that landed, I think it was 181 people on board, 179 or something like that died because it skidded along the runway and impacted a concrete wall that I'm continuously hearing had no right being there. Now, I'm not going to get into that. The fact of the matter is that when you do get on these aircraft, regardless of where you're flying and what you're doing, it's a blessing when you land and you get off that aircraft. You have a lot to thank God for. We certainly are thankful to God for life. We know that this is one of the most precious possessions that we have, and it's certainly we are appreciative of God being so good to us that we are able to be back here with you tonight. I've been busy with the Singing Christmas Tree 2024-2025 at the People's Cathedral, Bishop's Court Hill in Bridgetown, Barbados. I was one of the guest soloists there for that production. And of course, we had a series of rehearsals prior to took me away from the time with you. But I'm very happy to be back with you again tonight. My pleasure to be here, my honor to be here to serve you and to be able to lead this great team of panelists that will be joining us tonight. And we are looking forward to a great evening, and we are thankful to God for all of you coming into the new year 2025, and some new persons as well, some new names that I'm seeing. Of course, Marcy, it's great to see you. Sir Alfred Benjamin from New York. Happy New Year to you as well, Sir Marcia. Happy New Year, Jacqueline, Aline, and Lucinda. To Ronnie Hall, Happy New Year to you, sir. Judy Jilts, a pleasure to have you with us again tonight. Bonnie Springer, good evening to you and Happy New Year to you. Easy D. Yes, sir. Good evening, good evening, good evening. A pleasure to have you joining us again tonight as well. And thank you for your gracious greetings. Beverly Prescott, good night to you as well. Happy New Year. And Carol Mac Boland, happy to have you with us tonight. Good night to you as well. Oswald Newton, DaCosta Fields, Naim Hossein. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Samples Solo Ferdy. Well, I don't know. You mean you want me to sing now? uh, oh my goodness. I think there is a link. If I can find it before I finish tonight, I will put it in the chat for you that you can go and you can, I believe you could hear the production. I think it's online on YouTube. That would be the Singing Christmas Tree at the People's Cathedral in Bishop's Court Hill in Barbados for 2024-2025. So it's a pleasure to have you all with us tonight, and we're looking forward to a great night. Of course, you know that once I cross the 200 barrier, we are going to be going into our national anthem, and we're going to be following that, touching on a number of issues that are facing us as people in 2025. We're praying for a better 2025 than we had in 2024. There are lots of rumors out there. We're hearing a number of different things relating to pandemics, relating to elections, all kinds of things that we're hearing. And tonight we're going to be touching on a number of things. I'm expecting Rose Corbin to be with me tonight. I'm expecting Kimard. So I'm going to encourage you to share, and share alike. Good evening to you, Mystic Angel. And Nigel Newton, good evening to you too, sir. And a blessed night to you and Happy New Year. We're looking forward to you rejoining us as soon as you're able to. Mystic Angel, James Ford, pleasure to have you with us again tonight as well. So I see that I've clicked past the 200 member, 200 loyal opposition viewing group. And it certainly is a joy to have all of you. So let's go to our national anthem and, of course, a national pledge. We're coming into the new year, but believe you me, these two aspects are as important to us as a people and as a nation as they were in 2024. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we stand to attention, please, for the national anthem of Barbados? Well, I'm almost tempted to say amen, amen. And we are so grateful that we have a tremendous reminder in our national anthem as we engage the new year 2025. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. With him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. And I just want to say before I do the national anthem, this is one of the reasons that government needs to be very careful how it deals with the people. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. But join me as we share together the national pledge of Barbados. I pledge allegiance to my flag, to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Well, I almost slipped there, but then again, I think I would be in good company because I saw the other day that the Vice President of the United States of America, in leading Congress, followed up the national pledge to America. So I don't feel too badly about a little slip here and there because some of the big ups who should have these things technically nailed down, make their mess ups as well. But anyhow, let's move past that. We're so grateful to be with you tonight. Now, tonight we're going to have a tremendous show. You would have seen from some of the information on the flyer for the YouTube. We are going to be looking at. I asked the question: what is in store for Barbados for 2025? What are we going to be facing? What are the challenges? What are the things that as a nation will be engaged in? Where are we going to be hearing the truth from? And, we're going to hold everybody's feet to the fire. I'm going to hold the leader of the opposition's feet to the fire as much as I'm going to hold the government's feet to the fire. We expect truth. We will not settle for anything short of the truth. And as a result of that, people need to appreciate the fact that, as a country and as a nation, government is, first of all, the servant of the people and not the masters. We seem to have this, and it seems to be a problem everywhere in the world where governments that are elected to office, you look at the UK, you look at the United States, you look into Australia, everywhere in the world, it seems that as soon as people are elected to office, they think that they're the masters and the people are the slaves or the servants. And the people need to remind government from time to time that the people are the masters and the government is the servant. And these are some of the things that even here in Barbados, we need to remind our parliamentarians that they are the servants of the people. Just today I was in, believe it or not, I was in a rum shop. And you might say, what, Rev, in a rum shop? Yes, I was in a rum shop having a discussion with some gentlemen in my area. And no, I was not sipping on Dorleys or Monkgay or any of those things. As a matter of fact, I was not. Was not sipping on anything. Okay, I was having a conversation with them, and I made the point. I said when there are significant decisions that are being made in a country, in Barbados, I was very specific, that would result in significant changes to the lifestyle and the comfort of the people of Barbados, that the government should first engage the citizens of the country with regards to matters. Now, we seem to have a government that thinks that the people are idiots, and so they have to make decisions for them without their consultation. And you consulted with us when you came around to get our vote. You consulted with us. You sat, you had all kinds of talk. You brought out all the sardines and the televisions and the microwaves and all of those things. And you sat and talked with the people when you wanted to get their vote. And the people are saying to you now that those days are over. Let's say it. Those days are over. We are telling the government, don't come with any of that anymore, because we are not stupid. We are not blind followers. We are not ignorant. We are people who are informed. We are people who are aware of what is happening around us. And it is important for government to understand that. And I said to them, why is it that when a decision is to be made, if you're going to be contemplating something, then what you need to do is when you have your constituency meetings, and when I say a constituency meeting, I'm not talking about a constituency meeting for the Democratic Labour Party or the Barbados Labour Party. We need to throw those kind of things through the door to some degree and have a constituency meeting for the people where the government and the opposition can turn up just like they do in Parliament and sit down in front of the people and put to the people what they want, the opposition put to the people what their opposition perspective is to it, and let the people make a decision just like you asked them to do when they elected you to office. You need to come and talk with the people, consult with the people. We are your employers, and there is no reason that you should be acting ad hocly, making decisions on the behalf of the people of Barbados without consultation and without, to some degree in areas, their consent. Now, you may say to me, well, Rev, that sounds a little burdensome. Every decision the government has to make, they have to consult with the people. I didn't say every decision. I said important and serious decisions, such as when you are engaging the International Monetary Fund that will result in the loss of jobs and the increase in bus fares and the increase in value-added tax and those different kind of things. That is what I'm referring to, because at the end of the day, it is affecting the people of Barbados. I watched with interest the United States elections, and I observed the people made a decision on the basis of what was affecting them economically on the ground. They were talking about matters at the supermarket, at Walmart, at Publix. They were talking about big lots. They were talking about what was happening to them, buying chicken, buying bread, buying gas. Those are the same issues that we are dealing with in Barbados. Can you imagine during the time of Christmas, hams, little pieces of ham, and you all know what I'm talking about. Little small ham selling for $180 something for little ham, $500 and something for a leg ham. This is total insanity. And I am putting it to you as well. Not only is government carrying responsibility for some of these aspects, some of the merchants are also carrying responsibility for these aspects. We travel, Barbadians are not foolish. We travel, we purchase online. We know what things cost overseas retail. And you are talking about merchants who are buying wholesale at suppliers' costs, bringing them into Barbados and marking them up where they're selling in excess of 4 to 5 times though the prices overseas. And yes, Marcy, you're correct. They were all bones. I happened to get one. Thankfully, I didn't have to buy it. I won't tell you how the source was, but 2 slices on the ham, and we were to the bone. And that was the end of that. And these are things that are going to get a government removed from office. And I'm saying, if the rumors I'm hearing are correct, that the government is contemplating an election this year, and I received some information I am hopefully going to be able to share with you tonight concerning some disturbances within the current administration. And I got the information, and I'm going to share some of it with you. All right, and I'm going to share it with you as I have received it. I'm going to share it with you exactly how I have received it, and I can only tell you it is alleged, because I want to be very careful that I do not cause Marcia any discomfort in the context of her shows being taken down from YouTube, as we saw occur with one recently, and without explanation. And I believe it was one in which they were talking about the pandemic, and that is an aspect I'll touch on, God willing, in a few moments, that they're trying to stir up another pandemic again. Right now in the United States and in the United Kingdom, we are talking about, and this is the Daily Mail. If the people listening to this show wanted to fact check me, dailymail.co.uk health, dealing with an flu explosion, a flu explosion, inverted commas, where they're claiming in the UK, 1 in every 4 adults who are sick have flu, double last year's rates. Now, these are things they're trying to set up for another pandemic erase the hypocrites. You are correct. And you know, I am telling you, I am glad that time has vindicated what myself and others were saying concerning the then pandemic, concerning the treatments and concerning the safety precautions that were alleged to have kept us safe, but did not do so. And I am glad that history has made it clear that we were true. It was not misinformation. It was not false information. It was factual. The pharmaceutical industries are facing multi-billion-dollar lawsuits. They're facing, as a matter of fact, I watched a live video of Bill Gates being booed and being, disrespected in the UK. And the call was for him to be arrested. And we have a prime minister walking hook up on arms with that man. You have that man, George Soros, a wicked, wicked, wicked individual, being given a medal of honor by the current outgoing, let me say, president of the United States of America. And that is why I'm saying to you all on this show that a lot of what is going on in Barbados has nothing to do with homegrown decisions in the best interest of the people of Barbados. Nothing to do with us. We are being told from outside what has to happen, what must be done in our countries. And I am going to speak out against it. I am going to speak the truth. You know, someone saw me recently and asked me if I was facing any backlash for what we shared during the pandemic. And I said, no, I'm not facing any backlash. I told the truth, and my responsibility is to tell people the truth. What people do with the truth is entirely up to them. But no matter what happens, I don't care what cybercrime bill they introduce. I don't care what they try to do. And we are not going to forget that cybercrime bill because it's 2025. We are going to remember that cybercrime bill because the government is not going to be able to pass any bill in this country to the detriment of the people of this country without facing opposition from the people of this country. And when the time comes for election, I am telling you now, we are prepared to put you out of office. We will remove you from office with our legitimate power that is called the vote. And I'm saying to all of you, please, please, value your vote in any upcoming election. It is one of the most sovereign commodities in your possession, not just your citizenship and your passport, but your vote. Do not sell it for a bowl of pottage. Don't sell your vote for a bowl of pottage. It is valuable to you. And if anybody wants to get your vote, let them put the case to you that would validate them deserving the right to receive it. Because that vote is of great value. And they know it, they know it. But the fool you and the mamagai you and fool you into thinking that they're going to do this and do the next. We have heard of 10,000 houses being built a year. Where are they? You can't even find 1,000 houses built in the last 4 or 5 years. You can't find it. And guess what? Guess what? We are seeing right now, I didn't produce it, right now in the Barbados today. Let me see the date of it. Let me make sure I get it right. Excuse me. In the Barbados today, let me run down through the article and make sure I have it correct. Gotta tip my glasses down here. On the 4th, again, I'm reading it, 4th of January 2025, a 4-minute read in the Barbados today, 3 state-owned agencies posing significant risks. And we're going to be talking about that tonight with Kimar, because you would think that based on all that you've been hearing, that everything is hunky-dory in the country, but everything is not hunky-dory. People have sold out this country and are implementing policies and procedures in Barbados that are being thrust upon us and upon the government because of their walking hand in hand with people outside of this country. And I am disappointed, and I'm not surprised, disappointed by the voices of some of the people in Parliament that ought to know better that when we stand up and ask for accountability for the Prime Minister's expenditure in travel, we have people who will stand up to try to defend the expenditure without giving an account, without itemizing the expenditure, without telling us what it was spent for, where it was spent to go, what were you doing, what were you projected, what has benefited Barbados because of all of your travel in the past year. We have people that will stand up in the House of Assembly and defend that reckless expenditure without giving an account to the people of Barbados. We pay your salaries with our taxes. We pay your salaries with the value-added tax. We pay your salaries with income tax. We pay your salaries when we shop at the supermarket and buy gas. We pay your salaries. You are accountable to the people of Barbados, not just a matter in Parliament. You're accounted to the people of Barbados. And you're going to have people standing up in Parliament to defend and talk foolishness about the Prime Minister, $180-something million to the Prime Minister's. I don't care how much money is allocated for whatever reason. We are asking you to show the people of Barbados how it was spent. That is what we are asking you. And this year, when time comes for budget, I don't know when they're going to call the budget, because I'm hearing that we are running the risk of an election this year. And I'm going to read what was sent to me. It is alleged. It is alleged. And I'm reading. I'm going to read it as I have received it. Folk, the emperor is naked. Of course, you know the story about the emperor. The emperor is unable to hold back the internal pushback by membership. Members are rebelling because Chris Sinclair has now been named campaign manager for the Barbados Labour Party upcoming general election. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. I am telling you, it is alleged. I am investigating, but I'm reading what is alleged. The emperor has also named her cousin, the opportunist David Commission, as deputy campaign manager. The Most Honorable Dr. Walcott is up in arms. I'm reading it as I received it. It's alleged. It is alleged. I am not going to get here and tell you anything that is going to cause defamation lawsuits to be issued against myself or Marcia. It is alleged. It is alleged that the Honorable Walcott is up in arms for they're upset that this same Chris Sinclair, who caused Barbados to be in its current economic problems when he was the DLP Minister of Finance. The Most Honorable is on fire, and members are following his lead in the pushback against Mr. Sinclair running their party and general elections that is being called early next year, this year. I have made a statement on our marches, and I have dared the Prime Minister to call an election. And I reminded the Prime Minister what sank the Titanic was not the 1/10 of the iceberg the captain saw. It was the 9/10 he did not see that sunk the Titanic. I'm warning you. I'm warning you. For as a result of the internal pushback by members, the empire used every sort of salty language and is calling a general election, and not only a by-election in St. James North. Well, that sounds to me, if it's in James North, that it is my friend, my so-called family, who traveled to Washington, D.C. with a team to oppose the citizens of Barbados at the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights with regards to the cybercrime bill, and employed the services of a European colonial master attorney at law to confront the black government of Barbados at the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. Myself, two young men, a young lady, Shaquani, and another gentleman whose name I will hold on at the moment. We sat across the room from a delegation of the Barbados government, a republic, long independent, now cutting the last vestiges of colonialism. We sat across a room with a white colonial attorney at law from Europe who don't know nothing about Barbados representing our government against the citizens of Barbados. Not even the esteemed Sir David Simmons was present. And the gentleman from St. James North was there writing notes and passing them to the man because the man don't know any name of God is going on. He passing him notes. So as a result of this internal push and not only a by-election in St. James North, while um, a good friend of mine is breathing fire due to the betrayal of his daughter to become PM. I haven't called any names. Exposing of various monies missing and unaccounted for by Mr. Ralph Thorne in Parliament. We are calling for accountability. None of the members spoke in the support of the emperor. Get ready. It is during the election. Now, I say all of this is alleged. This was sent to me. But I can tell you this. The good Lord above don't sleep and he don't slumber. And sooner or later, everybody getting exposed. Now, there's a lot more I can say, but I see that my friend, the Right Honorable Rose Corbin, has entered my back room, and I'm going to bring her onto stage with me right away so that we can get clicking on what she is here to engage. Madam Rose, good evening. I trust you are hearing me A-OK, and
Yes, please.
a happy 2025 to you. It's a joy to see your smiling face at the beginning of this year. Thank you. We see you much better there. We see you much better. Did somebody, I hope nobody shot at you just now. That sounded like a shot. I hope nobody shot at you. But it's so good to have you joining us at the beginning. This is the first Monday show for me of the year 2025. And it's a pleasure to have you joining us here on the Marcia Weeks show. What an exciting time we had in 2024. And we are
Indeed.
looking forward to an even more exciting time in 2025 as we hold people's feet to the fire. Welcome, Rose.
Thank you so much. And indeed, it's a pleasure to be on the show and with you. And it's been a while, and but we're back here, and I want to start as I usually do, saying good evening to all the loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen and women of our faith. And I do want to take the opportunity from the outset to say a blessed 2025. We have gone through many challenges, faced many challenges, concerns, issues, personal, individual, and collectively, and as a nation, but we're still standing. And as we're told in Joshua, um, when Joshua was told to go possess the land, he was told not to be discouraged, but to be courageous. And he was told, you have not passed this way before. You've not gone this way before. We've not gone this way before. Let us use the lessons and the experiences of 2024 to help us make it through by God's grace and help through 2025. And I was listening to you, Reverend Ferdy, and you spoke of some of the things that we would be facing. Some speculated, some the evidence is there that these things will happen nationally, and some will be popped on us as surprises. Just as, remember, Reverend Ferdy, we had said towards the end of last year, and I told this audience to watch to see how what will be sneaked in on us over the Christmas holiday. And only on Sunday, it was yesterday, yes, Sunday evening, they had a constitutional reform meeting at the Frank Cullimer Hall for persons to come, a town hall meeting for persons to come and speak to matters pertaining to the uh, constitutional reform. And these are the things that we have to, as you say, put fire. What's that expression you used, Rev? Can't hear you,
Sorry,
but
sorry, keeping their feet to the fire.
keeping their feet to the fire. And that's how the year began, with the sneaking in of something as important as a town hall meeting addressing matters arising out of the various consultations on constitutional reform. And that is while they were all gathering to launch regathering at the
Yes,
St.
yes.
Lucie Parish Church. And that is where I want to begin. But before I do, I wonder, Reverend Ferdinand, if you were able to get that song that I sent to you.
I think I was. Now, let me see how good I am going to be at playing it and getting it there for all the folk to see. So let me see if I can get that done. And
The
let
first time I heard it was yesterday morning when we attended church at the People's Cathedral. And it really impacted on me because I am at the point wondering what can we do for a nation Barbados. And this song reminded me that there is still more work to be done in this city. There's still more work for us to do. So let's see if we can hear that song. The intro is a little bit long, but audience, I hope it resonates with you and it encourages you also, like it has encouraged to me
and
to, and you too, to continue our work in this city and for this city, for our country.
and you know, Rose, we make no apologies. I want to be very clear with everybody on the show. I'm a Christian minister. I have faith. I believe in God. Our national anthem carries that embodiment of the Lord being the people's guide. And we believe that there is a lot of very important and significant advice given in the holy writ of scripture. And
Yeah.
and we believe that when people follow sound wise advice, you get sound wise decisions and you get sound wise results. And I make no apologies for it. You know, I know persons from other I know a parliamentarian in the UK right now that's trying to get a law passed that will forbid anybody even making a joke about their religion. You know how much chastising Christianity has got, how much cursing it has got, how many things have been written about it, how many jokes, how people use the name of Jesus as a curse word. I ain't seen nobody beheaded or sent to the gallows or nothing as a result of that. And we have a parliamentarian standing in the UK Parliament wanted the government to introduce legislation that would forbid anybody even making a joke about their religion. So I don't make any apologies, Rose, to anybody for playing this song because it has some very wise words of advice. All right. So
Yes,
let's
please.
let's see what it sounds like. I trust you are hearing it.
Yes,
You're the
please.
God of this city. You're the King of these people. You're the Lord of this nation.
Let me know if you're hearing it.
Yes, please.
You're the light in this darkness. You're the hope to the hopeless. You're the peace to the restless. You are. There is no one like our God. There is no one like our God. The greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. Greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. You're the God of this city. You're the King of these people. You're the Lord of this nation. You are. You're the light in this darkness. You're the hope to the hopeless. You're the peace to the restless. You are. There is no one like our God. There is no one like our God. Greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. Greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. Greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done here.
I think that refrain says it all, Rose.
Yes, please.
Greater things are yet to come. Greater things are still to be done in the city. Would I be correct that that refrain is what you are talking about? There it is up on the screen. For
Yes,
greater
please.
things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. And I'm here to tell all of us, and together with Rose, greater things have yet to come.
Yes.
Greater things for this country, greater things for you, greater things in terms of our economy and our standard of living and cost of living. These are things that we believe that in spite of the challenges that we are having as a country, that greater things are yet to come. And I believe that is the grasp, the context that you want to grasp, if I'm correct, Rose, that is what you're getting at.
Yes, please. And I want to encourage us to believe. I want to encourage us as a people, those who gather around this, within this forum, to not give up hope. We're hearing narratives all around, the rhetoric. And I had concerns, and I still do, for this gathering, regathering, year long, when there are things yet to be done to enable greater things to come. And it was, what more are we to do? We are still to work on that cybercrime bill, Reverend.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
cannot
Can't
leave it.
forget it. Can't forget it.
That is one of the many things still to be done. We still have to look at the Constitution, the reform of the Constitution, see what they have sneaked in, see the recommendations that have been made. That work on that still has to be done. Our education system, we had an awful 2024 in terms of education, also the attempts on education reform. And they are continuing to work behind the scenes to foist on us unsuspectingly and in many cases unpreparedly that education reform. This government is known while we are yet sleeping to come on us, just like the parable of the virgins. They expect us to have our lamps without oil and with our wicks not trimmed so that it can be lit when the call is given. And I am suspicious of the move that they will make to call an early elections because their aim is to remain in government as long as they can and lull a great people to sleep. And therefore, I am encouraged and re-energized by the refrain in that song that greater things are still yet to come and greater things are still to be done. And one of the things is that we need to speak out. We need to become more active and involved. And I believe as the year progresses, we will resume our marches. But I would want us to have more of those wayside parliament,
those roadside parliaments, which you
roadside
roadside
parliament,
parliaments. Yes, Rose.
so that
Let me
persons can, yes, please.
yeah, just let me identify and give credit for that extract of song we played. It was from a Chris Tomlin, God of
Yes,
this city. Chris Tomlin,
yes,
all right, and because there's some things you have to be careful when you run these things on YouTube, that they don't sanction you because of copyrights and so forth. That's why I didn't play very much of it. You
yes,
have to be very
please.
careful. But that song, Chris Tomlin, God of this city. I believe he is the person. Chris writes a lot of
Yes,
songs, and it's another great song that he has written. So I just want to give him the credit, acknowledge that as a part of what we have done. But Rose, just let me quickly say that how one of the ways that I see this, yeah, and I'm so happy that you have raised the matter. I believe, and I'm saying this most graciously and kindly, that this we gathering is a distraction for the people of Barbados over the next 12 months when it comes to the things that the government wants to implement sneakily and without our attention and without us noticing, by keeping us preoccupied with all these fets and all this kind of stuff during the next 12 months. But I don't want to steal your thunder, so let you go ahead.
but that's how we engage and interact. So I don't mind. I did extensive research on regathering today. I must tell you that when it was planned for 2020, it riled me. I
Hmm.
was aware of how much money, Rev, was spent taking this narrative and the rhetoric of regathering to major cities outside of Barbados, in the UK, in Canada, and in the US of A to spread the regathering news. And my husband and certain persons would tell you that I went into a series of prayer and with some fasting that it would not happen. I told the Lord to interrupt it. They had one in St. Lucie, and unfortunately, sadly, COVID came. I felt, Lord, I don't want it to happen this way, but we had no regathering because I was concerned that we were just going to have bacchanalia year long. Now, Rev, it seems that it has returned and we shall wash it. Now, yesterday they launched it at the beginning of the year with a motorcade. So I have read. And yesterday, based on what I have read in Barbados today, the parish of St. Lucie regathering celebrations continued Sunday morning yesterday with a church service at the St. Lucie Parish Church. I'm not against persons gathering to worship, but it seemed as though it were another BLP gathering. And if you look at the pictures, they're all there. I recognize them. MP Dugwid, MP Abrams, MP is that Simmons, um, MP, Senator Chantel Monroe. We had Phillips from MP. We had Agil. We had Sandra Husbands. We had the president of the Senate. We had, is she the deputy president? The Sherpa, the Prime Minister's Sherpa, who carries the heavy load, who's been given a most honorable Liz Thompson.
And they have a problem, Rose, and they have a problem with me carrying the title His Excellency. But she's carrying the title most who? Honorable. I would like the people to know how much this gentleman has done for the advancement of people throughout the Caribbean for the last 45 years. And I was honored with an honorary doctorate and given the responsibility of representing 2 international organizations that are associated with the United Nations in Barbados.
Yes.
So I would say that I, in a sense, have worked for my honorary doctorate. I've worked for it. But what has she done to be, anyhow, don't let me get into that. You go ahead.
But Dr. Ferdinand, Reverend Ferdinand, most honorable you are. I sat listening to you on Friday night, and I turned to my husband, and I'm coming to it. I have 2 house guests from the UK, and I didn't have to wait, or they didn't have to wait for the call of regathering. They have done it. And
yes.
I sat next to them, and I felt so humbled. I felt so honored to know that I shared this forum with you on Monday nights. And there you were with that gift of singing, ministering, most honorable Dr. Reverend, my friend, Ferdinand Nichols. And here in the picture, I am seeing like they have been told, you have to turn up to these regathering, whether you like it or not. Next to the Honorable Liz Thompson is the now acting Deputy Speaker of the House, Cynthia Ford. We had Colin Jordan, and somewhere in the back it looked like Tony Moore. But they're all there, and they are listening to various speakers from amongst them. The same Peter Phillips, that's his name, the MP for St. Lucie, as well as Carrie Simmons. And I'm saying to myself, but why is the Minister of Culture not saying anything? Since this regathering is an initiative coming out of the Prime Minister's office under the portfolio of the Minister of Culture and being driven by that gentleman, and I hope sometime, if not tonight, I can speak to that. That gentleman who was pushed out from the St. Philip constituency to give space for Kim McConney, who is now the useless Minister of Education, to give her space, and now he's in the Prime Minister's office as as advisor, or what vague terms that they have, are positions they have created for themselves and amongst themselves. But I listened, I've done my research, and there seems to be gaps. There is no one philosophical statement or vision articulated for regathering. Every little body has their own take on regathering, and I find this real interesting.
Well, let me jump in here quickly, Rose, and just say, because you know time is flying. You remember that old song we used to have at Christmas? Time is flying, time is
Yes,
flying.
yes.
Have you done your Christmas buying? So time is just flying so quickly. And I want to tell you that while we might have to wrap up very quickly, very shortly, I want us to continue this next week, Monday, because we have some other guests that are going to be coming in on Wednesday night. But you know, I am looking, and I've said this before, and I make no apologies, Rose. I believe a church's sacred pulpit should be kept for ministers who are called by God to declare the word of God to a congregation. When I am running a assembly again, there, and I didn't do it before, and I will not do it again. There in a minister, a government, or member of parliament that I stand in my pulpit to say boo. If they want to say a thanks or welcome, they can stand down below, and I will put a what you call it, a lectern up for them to say what they have to say. But this is the problem that we have, Rose. That is why so many people are no longer respecting the church, because the church is pandering to this crap on an ongoing basis. But and I am very strong on the matter. If you are attending a service, sit your backside down in a pew and listen to what God has to say to you as a member of parliament. If it is a chastisement, because all scripture is given for inspiration, for instruction, for correction, and for direction. None of these people have a right standing in a church's pulpit or a church's lectern to deliver nothing. They should sit their butts down and listen to what God has. Maybe if they did that more often, we would have better representation in Barbados. And I make no apologies for saying this. If they're going to attend a church service for the start of something, sit down. If you want to have a conversation and talk to people, what you want to do, there is a place down in Spitestown and up in St. Lucie at Six Men's, you can put up something down there because you got the money that you borrow from all over the world. You can put something up down there and you can make your presentation to the people of Barbados. But when it comes to church, I make no apologies. Sit your butt down on the pew and hear what the preacher has to say, representing God to you. And that's one of the reasons that we have a declining respect for the church in Barbados. And I'm sorry to take away your 2 minutes, because you got about 2 more minutes before we got to shift gears and change direction. But you go ahead and wrap.
All right, and following on that, there's so much. Carrie Simmons apparently addressed the congregation, and he told them that I laugh, that regathering is really about love of ourselves and love of country, and come together for the purpose of building a better and more beautiful Barbados. Tell me how that can be achieved. I thought that they were doing that before regathering, when the vote was given to them in 2018. Why now? We must love ourselves and demonstrate that love for ourselves and country every month in regathering.
But because we love our country, we can vote them out. That is exactly what is going to happen.
There
we love
is
our
still
country.
much to be done in the city with her votes.
Thank you.
And what he said, and I smiled, one of the things that we hope to be able to achieve is to identify the best cooks across this island in every parish.
Hogwash.
Now,
Hogwash.
the best cooks.
Hogwash. People are
The
not interested
best
in the
cook.
best cooks, Rose. When we walk into the supermarket and find $100 don't give you 4 bags of groceries as it was giving you at the beginning of 2024 and only 2 bags of groceries at the end of 2024, we're not interested in who's the best cooks.
The best cooks. That this is one, I'm telling you, they are changing. Everybody has a different verse and refrain for regathering. And the acronym for Saint Lucy, and I'm glad to talk about the pulpit. They have chosen the acronym FAITH, FAITH. We know that Hebrews 1, 11 tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. I am having faith, audience, that we are going to see the evidence as we believe and have faith of a change and shift in Barbados without regathering. But you know, Pastor, what faith stands for regathering in St. Lucie. Listen
Tell
to
me,
the
tell
folly.
me, tell me the
Family for
acronym.
F, achievement for A, institutions for I, talent T, and H, heritage. What folly!
That
Faith.
is what you see. That is the disrespect this administration has for the church. They're using the church as a cover up, so to speak, or as a, I can't even find the word, Rose, because sometimes I can get so upset you can't find the words. But they're using the church, and the church leaders are so stupid and so blind they can't see that. Let me tell the people now. You said that they are projecting this matter of faith. That is a insult in the face of people who are of the Christian faith. Family, achievement, institutions, talent, heritage. Let me tell you, folk, what we in the church call faith. Forsaking all, I trust him. That is what faith is. Forsaking all, I trust him. Not family, achievement, institutions, talent, and heritage. Forsaking all, I trust him. That is what faith is. And to get in a church and talk that crap, that hogwash, is
And that
insulting as
they're
far as
looking
I'm
for the
concerned.
best cooks
Best
across
cooks.
Barbados. And that launch had started in St. Lucie, where we did that motorcade and distributed water. St. Lucie, the parish in Barbados
Very
that
nasty
has
water.
had long-standing issues with um,
People should be
unpotable water,
embarrassed.
dirty water, water that cannot be drunk, and also water that could not even clean or wash with. And they are inviting the diaspora to come home. Well, let me close quickly on my pet concern. As I told you, I have house guests. These are like ourselves, retired persons. My friend, her mother went to the UK with the wind rush. Her mother now deceased, who adopted my husband and I when we were students at Manchester University between 1981 and 1984, was from Bathsheba. My friend has not visited Barbados since it's about 30 years now. So she and her husband have returned. He is from Belize, but migrated to the UK several decades. We took them out, Pastor, and we went to Oistins, hoping to take a bus from Oistins to go up to College Savannah through the country and come back, and then have dinner at Oistins. Pastor, you are telling the diaspora to come home. How much money they spent on Oistins? Tell me again.
They say
5,000?
5 million. No, no, they said $5 million.
No, 5,000?
No, 5 million.
5
5 million.
million.
Five
Now the tents
million.
are down. The pavement and the places that you have to walk uneven, beachfront as well as to the road. The bus terminal is worse than ever. No shelter, no washroom facility in the bus terminal. It is awful. Over by Granny's is a graveyard, dead, poor lighting. And this is where I had to bring my guests to Oystins, where they were given 5 million, and where Chantal Monroe Knight boasted that should the roses and the thorns ask questions about how the money was spent,
The
show
roses,
them.
the roses and the thorns.
Yes, show them. Because I went up there with my measuring tape to measure the tents, many of which are not there. And when the rain falls, it still had to shift as some rain came. But you can't see poor lighting. And they are telling an insult to the diaspora together. We traversed some roads. Last week, my husband had to buy 2 new tires because we came through that stretch of road from Carmichael Junction that would bring you back to St. George Parish Church. Bump into some hole, tire gone. Then we were coming down through right there by Ilara Court, coming down 2 Mile Hill into another
No,
gap,
you see, Rose,
gap in the road, tire
I,
gone. We
Rose,
had to spend retired pensioners close
yeah.
to $400 for new tires.
But
And we
why
are
you
telling
spending
the diaspora, come
to
home.
come home?
Poorly lit
Rose,
roads, bad roads in bad condition. Some parishes can't get water, poor lighting. Don't talk about spending your money in the supermarket. They have to eat. And I saw on line today, and we can't even talk about it, how the prices have gone up. And Barven, the Association for Vendors, are complaining. For the holidays, many people had to pick and choose the items that they would have to make up their Christmas meals. And we are telling people, come home. I love my country, but for my guests, I made sure that my house guests were comfortable. They had clean water, they had clean linen, they had good meals. We could entertain them, we could carry them out, make them comfortable. You are telling the diaspora to
to come
come
home.
home,
Well, Rosie,
come home.
let me jump here
And
because we
what are
gotta
we offering them? I'm not a happy trooper. There is still work to be
to be
done
done,
in
to be
this
done.
city.
Yes. Let me jump here quick because we gotta move on. I got my other guests in, but let me just say quickly, you did not hit potholes. I Let me correct you. You failed to understand that there's a lot of oil drilling going on in Barbados that the Prime Minister does not know about, and that's what you hit. You hit the oil wells. 'Cause
Okay.
you can't call those potholes. All right, that's how big they are. The first thing. Second thing, very quickly. You know, we talk about these things of people coming home, but I want to remind the people that just a couple of a night or so ago, 2 KFC employees were injured in a shooting.
Yes.
And in the Pine, another shooting. So what are we bringing the diaspora home to have them shot? You see, and I don't want to get into too much of this because I see my colleague from Trinidad in, and we want to engage him because we want to know what's happening in Trinidad, Rose, because I'm going to tell you, I and
Before we
Glenn,
go to
listen,
him,
wait, hold
Reverend
on, hold on,
Purdy,
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Um, Glenn mentioned about organized crime, and I believe there is a move in the Caribbean to destabilize a society, to be able to introduce a crisis, to implement lockdowns and all these different kinds of things. And I really believe that that is a move that is going on in the Caribbean. But real quick, Rose, because I've got to go to Umar. You want to say something
and
real
the
quick?
last thing I want to say, I would like this Prime Minister, as well as her members of parliament, who are useless and non-existent, in my opinion, to take a book out of Rowley's page and resign. And
Yeah,
take
but
a
you know,
book out of Trudeau's page and
and
resign.
resign.
It's high time.
But listen, he ain't resigned yet, you know. When he, from my understanding of the press conference, and I checked with a couple of colleagues of mine in Trinidad, he has indicated that he is not standing for re-election. But as far as I'm aware, I don't know that he has resigned yet. But Umar, I'm sure, is going to shed some light on this matter for us.
Yes,
But I
please.
really believe that there is a move. Umar, welcome to the Marcy Week show, and a happy new year to you. And you know, you've heard what of our discussions that are going on. But one of the things I believe that is happening in our Caribbean is that we are being set up. We are being set up for a regional crisis, for governments to be able to come together in CARICOM. Because remember, Rose, Prime Minister Barbados is now chairman of CARICOM.
Yes.
She's now chairman of CARICOM,
Again,
and she can spread all of her propaganda now all through the Caribbean. All right, so let's remember that. Umar, welcome. Welcome and happy new year to you, sir. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. A joy to have you back with us. Don't know if you want to engage this particular topic, because I know the last time we were together, we were talking about the global
Yeah.
influence. And I guess you will be able, because of your expertise and your research, to tie these things in. So we want to welcome you, sir, on behalf of the loyal opposition, to the Marcy Week Show. Happy New Year to you.
Yes. Pleasant good night to each and every one of you. Greetings. All the best wishes for this new year.
Thank you, sir.
We say it, but it's not actually new. Believe you me. Um, we did a live the other night, and I coined a name for that live. Truth be told, it's do or die in 2025. And so a lot of people who are looking on and who would have made their New Year's resolutions and so on, I'm not diminishing anything of what you would have promised yourself. But if it's one thing you must promise yourself in this year, 2025, is to stand up, speak up, and stand for
Yes.
truth and justice. All right? And I don't think anything else would mean anything if we don't do that. You're going to lose your health. You're going to lose your
We lost connection with him. He seems to have frozen his if you're hearing us, Umar, your connection has frozen. We're not
yeah.
hearing you.
I'll
Okay.
be back. I'll be back. If
Right.
that happens in between, I'll be back. But you all are
Okay.
hearing me
Okay.
much better
Yeah, than before. Not as
than
much
before.
interruption. There's a little bit, but we can handle that.
Right. Um, Probably I can fix that. If there's a fan humming in the background. But anyways,
Hmm.
um, in previous time, just to explain, I was doing the live out of our offices, and I was using my phone. But I have a laptop that I never really carried in the office, so I'm on the laptop now. So I think you'll be able to get a better reception on the laptop than on the phone. So
Hmm.
that's why I opted to use the laptop today. So, anyways, coming back to what I was saying. So 2025, it's do or die. All right, and we're hearing that echoed from all the Caribbean islands. We're hearing a lot of conspiracies, a lot of things happening. We have the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago hinting his resignation. We see Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has actually resigned. I think.
Really? He's actually done that now. I missed that.
I saw a headline that says Trudeau resigns.
Okay,
So
okay.
I
About
didn't really
time.
delve too much into it. But what is important for us to understand is that both Trudeau and Prime Minister Rowley do have a lot in common. All
And the
right,
Prime
and
Minister Watley.
yeah, they all do have a lot in common. So I made a comment in response to one of our members today, and I said it's interesting, very very interesting that both Trudeau and Prime Minister Rowley announced their resignation, and it's interesting too who is going to be next, and are these resignations a hint of some sinister agenda that we have to be very, very mindful of. It's very, very interesting that Trudeau and Keith Rowley are both very, very avid followers of the WEF and their agendas and the WHO. We see what happened in Canada with the truckers, and very well we saw the same very thing happen here in Trinidad and Tobago, at least a resemblance of it, where the Prime Minister was threatening the public servants to take the job or else.
Yes.
And right, so this it's very very interesting that both of them announced their resignation. Is it because of they're seeing something coming and they don't want to be part of it, or is this part of their playbook? All right, is it opening or a new doorway that is opening for the arrival of someone else who will be able to carry on the agenda in a more cynical way? All right, we have to pay attention to these things. All right. Also, very recently in Trinidad, and just to answer your question, um, Prime Minister Rowley, um, he said that he's going to resign before his end of term. All right. So he's still the Prime Minister. He has not resigned as yet. And I think that announcement is going to be a very strategic move in terms of timing and when it does happen. All right. And
Well,
it all
let me ask you very quickly, Umar. If he does resign, what is the procedure in Trinidad? Because he would be resigning before the constitutionally due general election. Because you all have general election due this year, I understand. What would be the procedure if he does resign? And is it just him calling somebody to take over, or do they have to now vote in Parliament again for a lead? What is the
Well,
procedure?
there's going to be internal elections, of course, to select a new leader of the party. There would be an interim selection, all right, somebody who would lead in the interim, and of course, the president will appoint a prime minister at that point in time, I believe. Um, the it's interesting to see how all that would roll out as regards to our elections that's coming up,
Right,
because he's
right,
going to resign before the election.
right,
All right.
right. Uh-huh.
So that seat is going to be wide open. It's going to be up for grabs. I think they already have the eyes on a particular individual to carry that burden in that particular constituency. But nevertheless, we the citizens, we still have to wake up every day and face the burdens of life. And all thanks to the government and their policies and their decision making and their legislations and etc. etc. So we have to pay particular attention to those persons who will be coming in and taking the lead role in terms
Hmm.
of leadership of these countries. and particularly, um, in the Caribbean region, Trinidad and Tobago, because Trinidad and Tobago is like the New York City of the Caribbean. And we have to pay very close attention to Mia Motley's, um, you know, responding to this resignation, and how she is going to engage the new leadership that is going to emerge. All these things we have to pay very close attention to. But one of the things that I wanted to, I was hoping to embark upon this evening is the fact that when we speak about the prime ministers and the presidents and so on, and our governments and our region and so on, and our governance and our sovereignty and all of that, very soon all that will not be as we know it to be. All right, our sovereignty will be, shredded away. Our democracy no longer exists in our Caribbean islands, as everybody would agree with me, who has sense, right? Who has a brain, who could think for themselves, would know that democracy is no longer present in our islands. All right, what we have are totalitarian governments, and these dictatorship regimes are hell bent on controlling the masses the way they want to control them, and to lead them down a path that they want to lead them down. And it's up to the people whether they want to follow that path or not. And this is why it is important for us in programs like these to inform the population and inform the people what should be doing, what they should be looking to, and paying attention to, and what have you, and so on. So we have to pay particular attention to the growing trend of this global governance, or this global world government, and this one world religion. We've had some instances in Trinidad and Tobago which had raised some eyebrows and some red flags. And this in particular has to do with our Minister of Education. And I will be releasing a document, op-ed, within the next 2 days. I am hoping that is going to spell out, and in black and white, this agenda that our Minister of Education has has adopted, and what she has been doing, and how sinister these events and her involvement in these events are. Um, so you all look out for that. It's going to come. Actually, I've completed it already. I'm just having one or two of my membership look at it, and to review it and look for um, you know areas where I could probably polish up, or any corrections that we can probably make in it, and so on and so forth.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's something that the entire Caribbean, all the Caribbean nations should look forward for, because it's happening in every Caribbean country. I can promise you that. It's just that the people has not been able to see it and recognize it. All right, it's evil in every form, and we have put forward the evidence in that document, and we have connected the dots so that people would understand what they are up against, especially those religious leaders who feel that they are protected in some way from this evil. They are not, because they have been drafted in by some means or the other. And if they're not careful, they will be singing the same chorus, just as these evil politicians throughout the Caribbean region. So I just want to quickly touch on, if people did not believe me when I said there is a move to create a global government, one government, I'm going to give you the evidence now, and you can do yourself good and go and research it. If you don't believe that there is a move to create a one world religion, right? I'm going to give you the evidence now. If you want, you can go and research it and come back and, tell me what you think. All right. So I just want to go through it as quickly as I can. because I'm sure you would probably want to ask questions in pertaining to what has been happening in Trinidad as regards to the SOE, etc., and I'm going to touch on that too as well. But
But
first
let
of
me
all,
but let me
yes,
assure you, Umar, that wherever we get tonight, in the time that we have, you can be sure that you're going to be back on, of course, at your availability,
yeah,
to continue, because the show is an educational show as well.
yeah,
Where we're learning. We're learning things globally, we're learning things regionally, locally, and so on. So you can be sure that we will make a note, and I'm sure you will, as to wherever, because we'll soon have Kemar coming to touch on a few economic issues in Barbados. But I'm going to give you some extra time because we took some of your time away from you. But you can be sure that wherever we wrap tonight with you, we are going to be picking back up at that point. I don't know how regularly you would be available. If you're available to come on more than once a week.
I'm going to make a commitment here tonight. I'm going to make myself available every Monday. All
Okay,
right.
great,
This
great,
is this
wonderful.
is this is important for me.
Right,
It's important for all of us, and I have to make the sacrifice along with everybody else.
great. Thank
Right.
you so very much. So wherever we get tonight, folk, you're going to be sure that we're going to pick it up. It's important you hear this stuff because a lot of people don't realize, and you're not doing your own research. I know some of you are not. People do not realize how the global agenda is affecting our regional and our national decision-making policies. Go ahead, Omar.
Right. So here are some of the key initiatives and treaties and institutions that is pushing global governance and this unified framework that we've been talking about. So we're looking at the United Nations. Of course, all of us know the United Nations and its related initiatives.
Like the one stop him talking, but he said it'll happen, and he'll come back in. So when he comes back in, what we'll do is that we'll ask him to just repeat what it is that he's been saying, because I believe we've lost him there, for a moment. But what Umar is saying, folk, is absolutely correct, and we need to pay attention. A lot of what is happening within the context of Barbados, yeah,
Right.
Umar, if you
Yes,
were
as I
sharing
was
any,
saying.
yeah, if you were sharing just now, could you repeat, because we lost you for a
Yeah,
little bit,
I'm
if
going
you
to
could repeat.
repeat it. The United
Yeah, good.
Nations, established in 1945, has been a major driving force behind global governance, and we can't deny that. Key initiatives include Agenda 2021 in 1992, a comprehensive plan for sustainable development implemented globally, nationally, and locally. Critics argue it promotes centralized control over land resources and economic systems under the guise of environmentalism. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development 2015 includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which aim to unify policies worldwide on issues like poverty, education, and climate. While beneficial in some ways, it centralizes decisions, making the potentially and undermines national sovereignty. Pact for the Future 2024. This upcoming United Nations framework aims to address issues of global governance, digital technology, and peace, but raises concerns over centralized authority. You'll hear this word being used a lot, centralized, as we have heard already, the centralized digital currency. Number two, the World Economic Forum, WEF, the devil's handiwork. The WEF serves as a platform where global elites, governments, corporations, and NGOs coordinate policy agendas. Key initiatives include the Great Reset. Launched during the COVID-19 pandemic, this WEF initiative calls for a fundamental restructuring of the global economy, societal norms, and governance structure. Global Digital Compact, an initiative to govern digital spaces, including the internet, under centralized global rules, posing risk to privacy and free speech. And we've heard a lot about that in Barbados recently. Public-private partnerships. The WEF promotes partnerships that often empower multinational corporations to influence public policy. We see some of that happening in Barbados. Number three, World Health Organization, public enemy number one. Pandemic Preparedness Treaty. This proposed agreement would grant the WHO, the WHO, increased authority to coordinate responses during pandemics, including the power to impose health-related restrictions globally. Critics argue that such treaties allow unelected global entities, which is true. The WHO has never been elected and put into power. Unelected global entities to dictate policies over sovereign nations. If you go to the hospitals, there are a lot of policies in the hospitals framed by the WHO. Who put them there? Who gave them the authority to do that? All right. Number four, International Monetary Fund, the IMF. We've heard some talk about that in Barbados recently. And the central banks, central bank digital currencies, the CBDCs. We've heard a lot about that in recent times. We've had a minister here in government who was promised to bring that. Several central banks and the IMF are pushing for the adoption of the CBCs. While they promise financial inclusion, they also enable governments and international bodies to monitor and control transactions globally. Debt policies. IMF loan conditions often impose structural adjustments that align with global governance agendas, limiting national economic independence. And we've heard in Barbados where they want to implement the value-added tax as suggested by the IMF, and property tax as well. Am I correct?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The
Global
increases
trade, yeah. Global trade agreements and treaties, World Trade Organizations, the WTO, while facilitating trade, the WTO centralizes, again, economic rules, often favoring global corporations over local economies. Regional trade agreements, example, the EU, single market, the USMCA. These agreements erode national decision-making on trade, agriculture, and labor policies, as we've seen happening in some of our Caribbean islands, where a lot of our agricultural policies have been rolled back. All right, we can have access to certain, um, you know, um, chemicals to treat with diseases that affect our plants and so on. We can't have access to certain near, how you call it, necessities that can facilitate a farmer to produce and to be competitive in the agriculture, framework. Number six, interfaith and religious initiatives document on human fraternity 2019. All right, signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al Azhar. Right, signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al Azhar. This document promotes interfaith cooperation. While fostering peace is admirable, some argue it paves the way for religious uniformity. Abrahamic Family House 2023, located in Abu Dhabi. It houses a mosque, church, and synagogue side by side, promoting religious unity under shared principles. Critics fear that this is a symbolic step towards merging religions into a one world belief system. All right? And we've heard the representatives of the WEF spoke on these issues a lot. We've heard Satguru and his many interviews and so on, talking about possessing demons, and talking about aliens in demon form and being able to control these demons, etc., etc. Coming to Trinidad and Tobago, Satguru was able to mass hypnotize a number of politicians at once. We have evidence of that in our Minister of Education and what she has traversed upon after that. So it's very, very cynical what is happening and what is taking place globally. Now, one person may say it's okay, the interreligious organizations, they do a marvelous job because there's cooperation and interworking and interconnectivity between the religious groups, and we endorse that. But what is happening is that they're taking our doctrines and they're turning it inside out, and they're giving us a new belief system, a new doctrine, and a new faith under the guise of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. All right. And we have to be very, very careful of that. All right. And we've seen it before our eyes. It's happening to our children. It's happening in our homes and in our churches, in our mosques or temples. United Religious Initiatives, a global organization that promotes interfaith harmony and cooperation, but is viewed by some as an attempt to dilute distinct religious doctrines. And I know you would have some issues with that, my brother.
Yes, of course.
World
Yeah.
Council Churches, World Council of Churches, the WCC, this ecumenical body seeks unity among Christian denominations and has partnered with other religious organizations to promote interfaith dialogue. Climate agreements and environmental governance. The Paris Agreement 2015. While addressing climate change, it imposes global mandates on carbon emissions, often at the expense of local industries and economies. The IPCC reports the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change sets policies that drive global environmental governance, centralizing control over energy and industry. Centralizing again.
There's the word. That's the word.
Yeah, that's the word.
That's the word.
Educational and cultural institutions, UNESCO. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, standardizes global education policies. All right, and we hearing a lot about UNESCO as
Centralization
in
again.
relation to the sexually, sexuality education in the schools,
Hmm.
um, comprehensive sexuality education in the schools, right? Education policies often promoting ideologies that conflict with local cultural and moral values.
Yes.
And we have seen evidence of that already. Global citizenship education. UNESCO's GCE program aims to foster a global mindset, often at the expense of national identity and local values. Digital governance and surveillance. Global digital ID systems institutions like the World Bank, in partnership with the global tech firms, are developing digital identity systems to unify records worldwide. While beneficial for inclusion, they pose surveillance risk. Big tech and global governance. Major corporations like Google, Meta, and Microsoft collaborate with governments and international bodies to regulate information and control narratives under the guise of combating misinformation. And these are the same three bodies that was involved very much in the COVID-19 pandemic,
Yes.
right? Financial systems and policies, World Bank's sustainable financing programs. These initiatives condition funding on the adoption of global governance standards, undermining national autonomy. So you're not going to be able to get your loan unless you allow same-sex marriage in your country.
Yep.
Global
Yep.
tax
Yep.
initiatives. The push for a global minimum corporate tax led by the OECD, centralized financial governance and limited national economic strategies. So, in conclusion, we can very much say these treaties, institutions, and initiatives create a framework that pushes humanity towards centralized control in governance, economics, technology, and religion. While presented as solutions to the global challenges, they often come at the cost of national sovereignty,
Sovereignty. Yes.
cultural diversity, and individual freedom. That is what we're going to be stripped of. The public must remain vigilant. How many times I've used that word? Question narratives and advocate for policies that preserve independence, faith, and local governance. Global cooperation must serve humanity. Let's keep that in mind, my people. Global cooperation must serve humanity, not control it.
That's right. That's right. Umar, listen, I want to thank you so very much, really, because one of the governments that refused to sign that is refusing to sign on to this stuff, the United States,
Yeah.
because they have said they ain't surrendering their sovereignty to nobody.
No, no, no.
They have
Yes.
said that clearly. The Congress
Yeah.
has said that clearly. I mean, I don't have the details in front of me, but I remember when the World Health Organization was seeking to have global control of in the next global crisis, next whether it's a pandemic or whatever kind of crisis it is. The United States Congress made it very clear. Of course, it was a Republican majority Congress that made the decision. I don't think a Democratic um, Congress would have. I believe a Democratic Congress would have signed off on it. I
Mhm.
really believe that. But the
Yes.
Republican Congress said no, 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 not in the United States. The United States remain a sovereign country. And unfortunately, you are correct that our Caribbean countries are losing their sovereignty by signing on ad hoc without their citizens' consent or knowledge to these initiatives. Some of the information you shared is admirable, for cooperation between the faith groups
Yeah.
as you're dealing with poverty and
Yeah.
crime
Yeah.
and violence and so forth. That's fine, but we need to respect the differences of our religious faiths. Some worship this way, some worship this person,
Yeah.
so forth. We preach our gospel. The Muslims preach theirs, and and we respect it. We have lived that way for the last God knows how many years, especially within the Caribbean context. I mean, there in Trinidad, I have been coming to Trinidad for years, and I have never seen a protest, a conflict, a war, or anything in Trinidad among the religious faiths. They have existed in Trinidad, a multiplicity of faiths, and they have respected one another. But I do know that there's cooperation when it comes to certain initiatives and so on. And that is admirable. But you're very right. We have to be mindful, we have to be aware. And I want to bring in Kimar. I want to bring in Kimar because you mentioned a number of things at the beginning of your presentation to do with the central bank, digital currencies, and so forth. And Kimar, welcome to the first Monday show, the first Monday show of 2020. What it is, 25, 2025. And a happy new year to you. I believe this is the first time I am seeing you and hearing you for the new year. I haven't seen you in a year, but it's really great to have you with us. Just go right ahead and give your greetings, Omar, and to the loyal opposition. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show, sir.
Good night, Pastor Ferdinand. Thank you very much for having me. Uh, good night to Dr. Umar. Good to see you again once more. And good night to all of the members of the loyal opposition. Happy New Year, and glad to be on the Marseille show. My apologies, I was to be on previously, but due to circumstances, I didn't make it on at the time, so my apologies to those persons who were expecting me then, but I'm here now. So glad to be here.
And good to have you. Great to have you.
Yeah. So I could go on.
Oh, oh yes, we are releasing you. I know there's quite a bit. We have had a lot happen. I saw a recent article in the Barbados today to do with some state agencies and so on. I'm sure you have quite a lot to share with regards to that and some of the comments that Mr. Abdullah would have made with regards to some of the digital currency issues and so on. So please go right ahead.
Yeah, the problems of the country go back to before the digital currency. As you know, the digital currency is part of a minuscule part of a bigger agenda that transform world economies into a cashless society, really and truly. Um, so a lot of changes were made, particularly during the COVID period, which pushed a lot of the old paper-based activities um, onto the digital realm. So um, during COVID, we saw the collapse of many economies across the world. Luckily for Barbados, um, we did not collapse, which is good. But we ended up with a serious problem, and that problem is excessive debt from the IMF, the IADB, the CDB, and the multilateral institutions. Now, during a crisis, obviously, you would have to spend money to maintain, Pastor Ferdinand. Um, the country, maintain the citizens, and still keep it functioning. So we borrow the money. Now, I, along with many other economists, Anthony Wood, Carlos Ford, and many others would have been speaking about Barbados' debt burden and the rate that we were borrowing from the IMF since 2018. This is about our second IMF program in a very short space of time. That's very unheard of throughout the world. Any country that went through successive IMF programs, along with defaulting on debt, always end up with a currency devaluation. Is inevitable. Um, the inducement of the money from the multilateral system essentially forms like a debt trap or noose around economies. So Barbados, in particular, a social democratic country, uh, provides a high level of welfare to its citizens. So subsidized light, subsidized water, transportation, healthcare, education. No, the government spends a lot on its citizens, housing, etc. No, part of the IMF's model and these international Bretton Woods institutions is to cause the state to pull back and to allow private capital to invest. Right? So goods that the state provided for free, a private entrepreneur now comes in and provides that same good at a cost. So therefore, those persons who benefited from state assistance will now have to pay the private institution. So again, the IMF and these institutions, they provide economic advice to push you along those lines, basically. Like, so you hear the governor of the central bank speaking about investment opportunities and investment here and investment there. You can remember during the Quisic from the Stewart administration, they would have been printing money at the central bank and using that money for investment purposes. They would have been using money for the national insurance for investment purposes, and they would also be using treasury bills for investment purposes. They would have raised the legal reserve requirement for the central bank. That is the legal amount the commercial banks have to deposit with the central bank. The government passed or enforced legislation for them to increase that amount. So they took that money and pumped it into the economy where there was an absence of investment. Right? So it comes the IMF, and the IMF says, well, no, you have to do debt restructuring. And all of those persons that you took money from during that period, you know, have to have a serious haircut across, causing significant reduction in the values of the investment. Pensioners took a serious hit. The banking system took a serious hit. The national insurance took a big hit from the debt restructuring and the central bank. Right? And these institutions are now reeling. Now, fast forward, COVID hits with the Barbados economy, and there's a shortage of revenue coming in the country. And remember, government earns from taxation, or earns majority of its revenue from taxation. So we had sewage tax, gas tax, increases in VAT, online Amazon tax, increased land taxes, and the IMF said, you know, in the BERT plan, you don't have to restructure your economy. So that involves your state-owned enterprises. Your state-owned enterprises. And I really wish Pastor Ferdinand was on that he could show us the list of those entities, which was in the article that he spoke about. Um,
I, I'll,
where
I'll try to pull it up while you were talking.
yes, yes. So remember, the government's purse taxation revenues are supporting these state entities. So we could all accept that taxpayer dollars run the hospital. We could all accept that taxpayer dollars run Hope and all the housing entities. We could accept that taxpayer dollars run the water authority. We could accept that taxpayer dollars run the airport. These are state-owned entities where the government has to fund them from the collective revenues that we pay taxes. Now, the IMF is saying to the Barbadian authorities that these transfers that y'all make, like transferring of taxpayer dollars to these tax entities, you have to cut those transfers, reduce them. So you have to stop giving these state-owned entities so much money when the financial year comes. So you have to cut all budgets by XYZ% to these entities. Now, to get further drawdowns from the IMF, and most recently, the IMF program that I'm referring to now is the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, or the second IMF program, right? The Resilience and Sustainability Trust, the last one that we signed, BERT 2, right? One of the priorities, or one of the main priorities on the BERT 2 was to restructure state-owned enterprises and to continue the reforms to SOEs.
Just confirming with you, Kimar, that you are seeing that article.
Yes, I'm saying it.
Okay, good. You can direct me then as you need to.
Yeah. So you could scroll up. I could see, or you could, what you could do, you could read it for me. That that'd be better.
Okay, you want me to pick it up from the beginning? 3 state-owned entities
Yes.
have been, yeah, okay. 3 state-owned entities have been identified as posing a significant risk to the country's fiscal plan, according to a government report, including a fledgling housing project, the 61-year-old National Broadcasting and the National Bus Company. The Hope Inc. project, Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, and Transport Board were all described as technically insolvent and undermine the International Monetary Fund's supervised austerity drive. A red flag has been raised about the risk posed to the fiscal plan due to the millions in debt which the government has guaranteed for the 3 state-owned entities in particular, but other vital public services providing health, education, housing, and farm produce remain under watch from month to month. The administration's Barbados Medium Term Fiscal Framework 2025-2026 to 2027-2028 said the most significant risk is posed by the government's implicit guarantee of the liabilities of the controversial Hope Inc. project, the CBC, and the Transport Board. Umar, I believe Kimar, you're still there. Let me bring you back in. Um, okay. Just want to make sure I have you back in. Right. Do you want me to continue reading?
No, that's fine for now.
That's fine. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But just wanted to get some context for the audience, right? So that
Right. Right.
they could see and follow the
Yes.
discussion. But this is very important, and we need to pay attention to what happens next. Right? Now, the entities we list are public sector entities, which
Yes.
again will transfers from central government have to run them. So
Yes.
the whole project, as you know, the whole project or the discussion surrounding the whole project originated right here on the Marcia Week Show.
Yes.
The $60 million was transferred from the central bank's housing credit fund. into hope through what I would suspect are unusual circumstances, because it merited an investigation from the Auditor General, and it merited an investigation from the Prime Minister's office. Right? So there you have it, the public sector again, but this is the main problem. With transfers come under scrutiny from the IMF. And as was listed or said in the article, it poses a threat or a risk because these entities are leaking funds, right, are having increased transfers, which go against the expenditure caps that are in place from the IMF program. So if, for example, an entity could jump from $7 million in original budget to then have a rapid increase to $51 million, then you will know that something is definitely wrong with that entity, and it is leaking what the economists will call revenue. Right? So to plug that hole, you will see with such a substantial loss, we have to shut it down. So they are not providing the rationale to shut down or privatize these entities based off the fact that they are no longer financially viable. Right? And this is in agreement with the IMF program to restructure all state-owned entities and to turn around any financial loss happening in the entity, even if it involves privatization or the implementation of user fees and payment. Right? So these entities also have in them staff, Pastor Ferdinand. So majority of the recurrent expenditure happening through these entities, people get paid, and increasing the IMF or increasing the government's wage bill. And the IMF is telling the government they have to reduce the wage bill, shut down some government departments, and reduce the overall headcount in the public service because too many people work in the public service. So the general consensus across the board is that the public service of Barbados is heavily oversized, and there are too many public servants, and it is unsustainable to public finances and the revenues which come into government coffers. So the rationale for having to borrow all of this additional money and borrow all of this additional funding is because if you don't borrow it, then we have to send home public servants. So because we're coming to the end of the road now, Pastor Ferdinand, of the borrowing, we have no choice now but to cut the public service and to send home some public servants to right-size the loss of revenue from COVID, and the fact that the tourist numbers are not coming in, the fact that international business is on the decline, and the fact that Barbados has no innovative way of earning foreign exchange other than borrowing. Pastor Ferdinand, we now have to resort to expenditure cuts as opposed to generative ventures to earn revenue. We're now in that cutting stage, and we borrow where we can't cut. So when we can't borrow anymore, we're forced to dig deeper and deeper as it relates to cuts. Now, you could remember a rating agency called Fitch, right? Fitch put out a statement on the Barbados economy last year. And I don't know if the government was, I would say there was mismatched communication. So if you read the report, you will see all of the facts were there. And there were some serious concerns about the Barbados economy right now. So I did an article on the Fitch experience, and I sent this article to the Nation newspaper. It wasn't printed for whatever reasons, but I put up a short snippet on a response to what Fitch was saying about the Barbados economy. Now, in the news release that was put out about Fitch, there was no announcement in it about Barbados returning to international capital markets, private capital markets, Pastor Ferdinand, to have investment. In fact, it was reinforced that we now have to continue borrowing from the IMF if we do not want to be downgraded. Right? Now, remember under the Chris Sinclair from the short period, we were being constantly downgraded by the rating agencies, and we were not borrowing internationally. That is, right? We were not borrowing at the time, but we were downgraded. The fact that we are borrowing substantially more in an alien economy that is not earning any new sources of revenue or increasing current sources of revenue, we're being upgraded.
And we are borrowing money. We are borrowing
Yeah,
money.
yes,
We are not generating any income. You remember that little proverb I shared with you, Kimar? When your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. So in
yeah,
our case, our upkeep becomes our increase.
right. So,
Ridiculous.
so that is strange. So I'm saying that if you're being upgraded while borrowing more with a battered tourism product, no serious money earners, um, you're not increasing taxation anyhow to increase your current revenue base, right? How could you be upgrading? You think, but whatever. So Fitch again, right? And the Barbados economy. Fitch indicated in their release basically that there was a serious threat to the Barbados economy, and that through the year the country basically was at a standstill past a Ferdinand as it relates to investment and the flow of money. At a basic standstill, not much investment is coming in, hardly any foreign direct investment is coming in, and there was very, very little elbow room for the Barbados government to do anything whatsoever should any type of disruption occur in the Barbados economy or internationally. That is, any potential of war, any blockage of ships, state of emergencies, Pastor Ferdinand, like what happened in Trinidad. For example, if the state of emergency stops the ships that come from Trinidad to Barbados, then the Barbados economy is in trouble,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Any serious political disruption internationally will impact on the Barbados economy. And Fitch indicated these things. Like, so let's look at it. A crime-ridden country of Barbados, crime-ridden Trinidad. We're seeing serious waves of crime, which is obviously having an impact on tourist income and tourism all through the Caribbean. These jerks are shocks to our revenue potential. It's putting us deeper and deeper into the borrowing trap and increasing the country's appetite to borrow in the absence of low revenues and the fact that the government will not wish to increase taxation on the masses right now. So if you look across government, right, the government had a budget of, or put aside, money put aside, we call capital expenditures, Dr. Umar. So money put aside to build roads, money put aside to build schools, money put aside to invest in the hospitals, money put aside to build housing projects, like the whole project, money put aside to invest in water and having clean water for St. Lucie, running water in St. John and St. George and St. Thomas and these places, money put aside for the World Cup and these places. Now, the government put a 22% cut across the entire capital budget, right? A big cut across the budget. I say, look, you're not spending, or we're hardly spending any money into the economy of Barbados, Like that capital money or that investment money is what drives economic activity in the country. Like people will get jobs when you spend that. People will get tax returns quicker when you spend that. Like people will get guaranteed national insurance, guaranteed pension payments on time and in full. Like so government cut that budget by 22%. Like are hardly invested into the economy. But remember, government still has something we call wages. Government still has to function. So they have to find money to pay recurrent expenses every year, regardless of what happens. Right? And there was a 0.2% cut in wages or any staunch departments in government. But here's the IMF no saying Pastor Ferdinand, and this is the predicament right now that we're in, hence the discussion of the state-owned entities. You've cut your capital expenditures by 22%. So therefore you can cut them no more because if you cut your capital budget too much, you don't have no money to spend in the country to generate any serious economic activity in the country. You can't cut that anymore. So therefore you now have to cut those recurrent expenditures that continue to choke you, which are wages and salaries, goods and services. Pastor Ferdinand. You all know what wages and salaries are and what they go to. Goods and services, as you know, are the hospital,
Yeah.
University of the West Indies, school, the Barbados Water Authority, the Transport Board, Rural and Urban Development Commission, the Adams International Airport, along with the long list of other state-owned enterprises. And remember, the recurrent cut, Pastor Ferdinand, comes in cutting the good or the service, meaning that the government will stop providing the particular good or service, and or the two go hand in hand, they're going to have to cut the wages and salary because
Correct.
the focus is now on the recurrent side and not the capital side of pulling back investment on roads and house building and construction and that stuff. You're not focusing now on that wage side and that good and service side.
Hmm.
And this,
Hmm.
and this is
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
the knife of the IMF now comes into play.
And
So
is this why we're seeing the what should I say, the repositioning of government workers from being employed by government to being now brought on the contractual arrangement?
yes, that is part of keeping the overall wage bill down, reducing overall appointments in the civil service, and keeping the overall headcount in the civil service down so
Hmm.
that government does not have to pay out national insurance for you, or they don't have to pay out, or if you get any service in your appointed, they don't have to pay out pension and gratuity for you. You just do the job, get paid, and that's it. They owe you nothing more.
Yeah, if it's okay with you,
If I may,
Kimar, I want to bring Omar in
yeah.
for a little bit. Omar, I saw a couple of comments from Naeem Hossein where he was wondering if we were talking about Barbados or Trinidad. Are you all experiencing
Because
are you all experiencing similar things
it's the
in
same
Trinidad?
thing that's happening here. And if we look carefully, we would begin to see a trend where the middle class are the ones who are being affected. All right, and a concerted effort in these Caribbean islands, Trinidad and Barbados. I'm seeing now to eradicate and erode the middle class. All right, so there'll be the lower class and the upper class. The middle class in a country is what actually keeps the economy active and keeps the economy
Right,
growing.
right, right.
We have seen the closure of many companies here in Trinidad and Tobago, and a lot of our workers have been sent home. When Petrotrin closed, we saw 285 businesses alone in the
Hello?
Southland, because
Collapse.
that's where Petrotrin was located,
Yes.
closed their doors. All right, entrepreneurship went to zero. So obviously, crime is going to be on the increase. A lot of frustration in the homes. We see a lot of violence in the schools, students fighting, etc., etc. And what Kimar is saying and alluding to with regards to, um, what he was talking about a little while ago, where, oh my, it was just at the top of my head. That last point you were making, Kimar.
Yeah. This is the recurrent expenditures and the wages.
No, not the recurrent expenditure. It was something else. It's exactly the same thing that's happening in Trinidad. Oh, the NIS, the contract workers.
Okay.
Um, Very interestingly, we have had to intervene, the First Wave movement, on a number of issues as it relates to contract workers here in Trinidad and Tobago, and how they have been taken advantage of. And the Kimara is right. When you're under contract, the government is free themselves from that burden of paying NIS and all these overhead charges and so on. You're responsible for yourself once you're in contract. All right. And what the government does is that they violate these contracts, knowing fully well that the workers has no place to turn. The trade unions are now exploring new avenues as regards to addressing the issues relating to contract workers and their plight on the job. It is a new venture for the trade unions here in Trinidad and Tobago, and a lot of it is now being looked at, and in terms of addressing it and so on. So a lot of contract workers in Trinidad and Tobago have been having a lot of difficulty, seeing a lot of problems. They've been sent home without notice. There are a lot of violations with regards to their contractual arrangements with government, etc., etc. Their contracts are not being renewed, stuff like that. So it's the very same thing that's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. So could it be said that this is they're all reading from the same playbook? They're implementing the same measures in our countries, sending home workers. They're taking away the opportunity from a man to earn a living and to make his family comfortable. So what is
Wouldn't.
left for that man to do?
Hmm. You,
Obviously, crime is going to go on the increase.
right, right.
Not necessarily man himself who was sent home, but his children who no longer can enjoy the comfort of life or the comfort of living as their father used to provide for them. Now he can't. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
What about
Hmm.
those individuals who are locked up? All right. And their families have to fend for themselves, the mothers, the children, and so on. I know personally in Trinidad and Tobago, there are women who have gone to prostitution to mind and take care of their families.
Oh, wow.
This is the level that
That
our
people have,
society has reached
yeah.
in the Caribbean
In,
region. And
yeah.
this platform basically explores the what is happening in both islands, Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. We
Yeah.
have Grenada, we have Jamaica, we have all the
St.
other
Vincent.
islands as well,
Yeah,
St.
yeah.
Vincent and the Grenadines. And we've seen St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the leadership of that country, how arrogant and disgusting he is. And to think that these things are not happening there, you know, is 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 is, is really really um, you know I mean, if
It's
somebody
sad.
says
It's,
it's
yeah.
happening
It's
there,
sad.
it's
Yeah,
definitely happening there. And
yeah.
it's happening throughout the Caribbean region. And I hope that one day this program will be able to attract the opposition from all those islands and bring them on this one platform. And let
And
us,
you can be sure we're working on it. I can tell you that,
yeah.
you know, because I don't know if she'll be able to make it on. The Honorable Karita MacDonald from Guyana is scheduled to join us tonight, but she's in some areas that we may not be able to get her on. But I wanted to ask you, Kmart, you remember some time ago when we were having a general election in Barbados? I think David Thompson was leading the Democratic Labour Party at the time. There was this discussion concerning whether Barbados is an economy or a society. Because what I'm hearing you expound seems to me, from an economic position, to be significantly harmful to our societal development. You know, what would your comments be? What would your comments be with regards to that?
Well, you are indeed correct. The,
And
the
sorry, and I mean, Omar, it's probably going to be the same thing in Trinidad, where on the basis of the economy, I mean, what happens in the economy affects the citizen and the standard of living of a citizen. So you can't, as I see it, it is almost impossible to separate the two, the economy and the society, because they're both, to my mind, and Kumar, you can correct me if I'm not an economist, but to my mind, they both feed into one another. You know, as if the society is strong and buoyant and so on, it has a positive effect on the economy. If the economy is strong and buoyant, it has a positive effect on the society, and vice versa. What would you say, Kimar? I mean, I'm not an economist. You know, I just try to use my common sense.
well, Pastor Ferdinand, you are correct. So, um, so again, echo. You hear me clearly?
Yeah, we're hearing you clearly.
Right. The stronger the society, the better. Barbados is a social welfare state. So investment into the society, like the provision of education, the provision of healthcare, the provision of subsidized housing, the provision of subsidized transportation, and these basic important goods, e- economists at the IMF regard them as luxuries. So the provision of welfare, disability benefits, non-contributory pension, uh, gratuity in the way it's set up right now, the benefits and the appointments to the public service. This type of job security only exists in not only Barbados, but I mean, it's not a popular thing. So you have these institutions chipping away at the bedrock of your society and putting money in it to chip away at it, basically. Right, Pastor Ferdinand?
Hmm.
And along the way, you have examples you could look at. Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana, all countries who have very strong currencies, right, as compared to the US dollar and the British pound, sorry. Right. Nowadays, they all have devalued currencies, and there are countries who had resources, right? Guyana is wealthy, Trinidad is wealthy, Jamaica is wealthy, but they didn't withstand the societal crumbling that were associated with the policies that they adopted, which saw their middle class falling out into poverty. And you had that large gap of the rich and the poor, and they really never recovered. Now, for a country like Barbados, who invest in mainly the intellectual wealth and not necessarily the productive, tangible wealth, when you start to make cuts, then people possess intellectual power. So to cut that means you have to cut people out of the system, and then you have more people lagging on the street without the hand or the safety net of government to protect them, because remember, the MF says you can't provide social assistance anymore. So eventually they can try to phase out unemployment benefits, severance, um, any welfare check that you could get at home, unless you sign on to the digital ID or so, you can't get no welfare assistance. And then you will see, as a solution, Pastor Ferdinand, to the societal follow, uh, universal basic income, a basic income for all, right? As a solution to the problem. Now you heard Charles Schwab and the WEF putting it as a solution. You see some people speaking about it as we saw it coming up in Europe and England, these places, because majority of the countries that want to adopt it basically have so many dependents on the state, Pastor Ferdinand, that usually when you have things like the digital ID that you want to roll out and digital currency, the first set of people you go to are these people because they're vulnerable people, right? And they depend on the state. So the more people through your economic policies that you could get into that vulnerable category, that you could override their rights because you control the economic means to their existence, then you could seep into totalitarian society through deploying such policies, right, Pastor Further?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
right. So the more you invest in this transformation, which seems to be rooted in the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, right, which is basically to reform old age pension, reform what is work, employment, job, and to reform all workers' rights, um, minimize the impact of trade unions, increase private sector, increase private sector capacity and investment, and to reduce the overall size of governments all across the world, and to allow for more private means of uh, capital, and for the vulnerable, allow the philanthropic economy to take care of the more vulnerable in society and reduce that assistance directly to the people and channel that assistance through philanthropic associations,
Hmm.
and we call them the modern day influencers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
You know, Kimar, there is a lot from my involvement in the area that I'm in, internationally and with the UN affiliate organizations. There are a number of philanthropic donors. Let me put it that way. Persons who have no agenda. They're not looking to take over the country's economy or anything. They're simply interested in helping, and there are a large number of them. And regrettably, one of the challenges that several of them have indicated that they face is that some of them can eliminate Barbados' debt completely. I mean, completely. And the challenge they face is what they perceive to be, and maybe you can shed some light on this, what they perceive to be the agreements that are in place with the IMF and other international funding agencies that restrict or eliminate government's capability to engage them. What is the perspective in terms of what you may be aware of where that is concerned?
But ask me that again. So,
Yeah, there are a number of philanthropic
oh, wait,
contributors,
wait,
let
wait,
me call
wait,
them.
wait.
Yeah.
I
That Mhm.
wait,
Sorry,
no.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I totally support the philanthropic donors. I believe that philanthropy is the way Barbados could grow its economy and to unlock investment in a very serious way. However, with investment, there's issues of transparency and corruption. Let's be frank. Caribbean governments have been known to be corrupt. Like, uh, serious royal and regal people toward the Caribbean, often leaving money, often leaving inheritance of land and other wealth for local people. Could be a local black, could be local Indian. Um, but for some reason, our colonial parliaments allow for uh, the legal system to steal a lot of the inheritance from the indigenous people.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So in attempting to leave or do or well, leave wealth or do philanthropy in the Caribbean, you run the risk of these pirate Caribbean governments stealing people's wealth yet again.
But
So people are very hesitant, Pastor Ferdinand, to invest significant sums in but so we have to be serious on corruption and
yes,
be
yes.
serious on politicians who corrupt the system,
Hmm.
who allow for the stealing and the pilfering of the lands and the wealth of the
Of the
people.
people. Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, they don't think it will be best.
Well, what you said is absolutely correct, Kimar, because in my discussions, and I have been dialoguing with a number of different groupings and so on, where philanthropy is concerned, and I'm learning a lot. Obviously, it's not something I anticipated getting involved in, but hey, here I am, and I got to fit into it. But in my discussions with them, they're extremely hesitant to put their funding in the hands of government. What their position is more likely, okay, say you had to build a hospital, they would be prepared to fund the construction of that hospital directly to the individuals or entities who are involved in the construction, the outfitting, these kind of things. They would source, let's say, they all the beds and all the equipment and everything. They would ship it. These are things they would do, but they're extremely hesitant because they are aware. I mean, when you talk with them, they are aware of the corruption level in the Caribbean. They're very aware of it, and they're weary to contribute as much as they would like to, unless they can find entities, persons, non-governmental organizations, or charities, or whatever, that would be willing to take on those responsibilities and give the oversight, so to speak. But it would appear that not too many governments are embracing of that type of perspective.
Right. A lot of politicians in the Caribbean are first and foremost land thieves, right? And even if they're not land thieves, they have their friends to steal the land and take kickbacks from prime state lands, right? And prime state assets.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
sure you could call a case off your head right now. You are wondering how a foreign investor got their hands on that very important plot and piece of land in Barbados, or even in Dr. Umar in Trinidad. You're wondering how did they get that? And it traced back to some politician in parliament, right? Some representative in the area doing some type of swiping, right? Doing some type of swiping, either selling off the state land for undervalue, or, you know, the governments now in the Caribbean getting bold. They're doing eminent domain and just taking over your property and giving it over now to a private investor. So those type of tactics are regular in dictatorships and those type of regimes where the government is the rule of law and the head of government, whoever is the president or whoever, has absolute authority. So that undermines the investor confidence, because I would hate to know you invest heavily in your country and your president or whoever wants to be a dictator could just come in and snatch it up and take my investment and my money burn, and they don't have no recourse to get it back. So, for example, if you look at Zimbabwe, with Robert Mugabe, Robert
Oh
Mugabe was
yes,
very,
yes,
very pro-black in his messaging, and he was saying, "We're going to take up the white man's land. We're going to take
yes.
up the
Remember that.
property."
Hmm.
Now, that is very black power, power to the people here, but that's very anti-investment for the whites. So,
Yes,
anti-investment
yes.
for anybody really. I say, boy, if I put my money in Zimbabwe, I, I ain't getting it back. So
Yeah, yeah.
economy will eventually crash. So these Caribbean economies, and you're finding nowadays that a lot of Caribbean governments are doing business with crooked crooks and sleazy characters, right? Because the more serious, upstanding, integrity, accountability filled institutions are shunning a lot of these corrupt governments and refusing to invest in them. So that's where you're seeing a lot of money laundering and a lot of drug trading and a lot of illegal activity people are finding themselves in now because the time is running out now. So until we get a serious shaking up, serious shaking up, and spotting the microscope and doing and a cleansing out as well. That would return investor confidence and not anyway in addressing in any serious way.
I made a note here because I was listening to someone recently. I can't remember if it was locally, regionally, or in the international circuit. Because I like you, Omar, I tried to do quite a bit of research myself. But the comment was being made that I think it was to do with Barbados, Kimar, all the land in Barbados, they say, belongs to the government. That we don't actually own the property. The people who you buy a property, but you don't actually own it, because at any point in time, the government can come in and what they call it again by something acquisition, and you'll inform me more readily.
Acquisition,
Um,
acquisition.
yeah, they can come in and
Compulsory acquisition.
compulsory acquisition. They can come in and take up your property and pay you what they feel like, even if it's not market value. I mean, many people are not going to waste their time going through the courts because of the judicial system that is so unjust.
But we had
Um,
politicians in Trinidad and Tobago acquired land, knowing fully well those lands will be up for acquisition, because they knew the projection of government plans and so on, where they plan to put roads, etc. And these government ministers, they walked away with a lot of money. You understand? There's something called insider trading, and I think they
yes,
have
yes,
insider
yes.
information. They did a lot of these things in Trinidad. So there are a lot of land thieves, in the corridors of our parliament here in Trinidad and Tobago. And very same thing that Kimar is speaking about, it is happening here, and it's more widespread here, I believe, than in Barbados. Barbados is following our pattern, and they're copying every single aspect of our criminal behavior amongst our politicians here in this country. And it's sad that the people has not been able to pick up on it as yet. The few that has picked up on it, all they're doing is just talking and posting and stuff, and there's no real pushback
There's no
against
real
what is
action.
happening. No real action yet.
No real action. Yeah, Kimar. In terms of what I just shared with the aspect of because they were claiming, that has a bearing on matters like land tax, and there's been some outcry recently with regards to the significant increase. I understand it to be of land tax in Barbados. Um, I think you would be familiar with that aspect.
That that was pure corruption. No, you have check again echoing again, so I don't know if somebody has to mute.
Yeah, no, I just a little bit on Omar's, but I just muted you, Omar, if that's okay when you're not speaking. Yeah, go ahead, Kimar.
Right. Uh, yeah. So I was saying with the land situation. Now there are set laws in place which speaks to land tax and land valuation and the categories of land. So there's agricultural land, there's commercial land, and there's residential land. Three main categories, of land. Well, but some instances in Barbados, they artificially created a new category called agriculture commercial, which forced people with a dwelling house, a house that you live in, right? And it just has a sizable amount. They almost, well, not, land tax jumped from, say for example, $800 to $34,000 in one go, right? And it was done sparingly on one particular district in Sanford and St. Philip. But when you look at other places in Barbados, like News Plantation, right? We could look at the affluence in News Plantation and compare it to the, affluence of Southward, and you will clearly see the difference and how they would even use that to discriminate against their own countrymen because there's no such thing called agricultural commercial property, right? But if you look at the IMF documents again, Pastor Ferdinand, and what the government reported, they will say that government revenues increased because of a windfall in land tax collection, right? So they increase the rates of people via a false notion, right? Send out the bills early, by the way, quicker than they were supposed to, and collected a windfall of tax revenues that they could come now and brag and say that they met the IMF targets and the IMF revenue targets, as was said today on the radio by the head of the BERT Monitoring Committee, who's the president of the Private Sector Association. Right? So that is the seriousness of the situation. Fast forward.
Well, I mean, as I'm listening to you and I'm listening to Umar because obviously there are similar situations in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm thinking that people who are looking to invest into Barbados, I just made some notes here as you were speaking. If I'm going to come and invest into Barbados, and I am aware that once my investment looks attractive and so forth, and I am law-abiding, whatever, nice person or whatever, that the government now has the capability of compulsory coming and taking over what I have worked to establish and so on. I'm not about to put my investment into the country. I simply am not going to do that. My conversations with a number of these philanthropic individuals, and I do speak with a number of them. You see, sometimes governments thinks that they're the only people that speak with folk, but there are a lot of Barbadians that are speaking with people in a number of different areas. That's why I laugh at, but I shouldn't say I laugh. Let me give respect. I have concerns with this regathering business. I want somebody to show me, and I don't want to change the subject, but I want somebody to show me the significant economic contribution that it is going to make to Barbados. How has it been calculated, Kimar, that we're going to do this regathering for the entire year 2025? What is the expected what's the word I'm looking for? Target. What's the expected goal of this regathering in Barbados? Are we expecting to have citizens move back here and invest into Barbados? Have we been able to research in the diaspora to see how many people are really interested in doing that when you consider the number of issues that we are facing here in the country? These are questions that are going through my mind. How is it contributing to the Barbados economy over the 2025?
Well, look at it twofold. You can look at it from the gathering side, but that will be the secondary aspect of it. But the primary aspect of it is that we have a leader who flies all around the world, right? Jet setting. Highest flyer miles ever in the history of a prime minister, but it correlated to very little investment into Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
So we had
precisely
investment roadshows in America. We had investment roadshows in Africa. We had investment roadshows in South America. We had investment roadshows in London and all through Europe, right? We had investment roadshows in the UAE, Arab.
Yes.
Right? But when you look at the investment, the foreign direct investment, you're not seeing anything such. We went on CNN so many times, and by the way, that is not free. We have to pay for that. We have to pay for those interviews.
Right. And a lot of money too. A lot of money, friend.
Like, we had addresses to foreign parliaments, the Ghanaian parliament. We had trips to China, but again, when you look at the investment, is not coming. So jump onto the gathering now. If you went out there and persons then, but you went to the persons then bike. Now you come here and you're saying you want Barbadians to come back home to invest. Who would be your target market if you're looking to get Barbadians back here? I would assume you have to go after persons who are retired because working persons will not be able to make those trips because they're at work, right? The persons in the diaspora, so that means you'll be going after retired persons. Now, retired persons already have a set trajectory as to how they will travel to and for to the home country of Barbados. Because we're speaking about Barbadians in the diaspora. Some of them will spend 6 months in Barbados, 6 months over there, and do their different back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
Barbadians in the diaspora have the internet. Barbadians in the diaspora watch the Marcia show. Barbadians in the diaspora listen to the news.
That's correct.
Barbadians in the diaspora read information that is put out. And
And it's not misinformation.
it's not misinformation. Now, Barbadians in the diaspora are often in communication with people at home,
Correct.
and they know about the expensive cost of living that it is of Barbados because they live here, so they know.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think the gathering will have a magnetic pull on the diaspora simply due to the fact that there are already events staged that Barbados naturally come back here for. Crop over, Christmas,
Correct.
Easter,
Independence.
Independence. There's already a set calendar that we're here, right? So no person starts a further realistically is going to leave here. Just I think most people know who left Barbados, know when, if, and how they want to come back. Right? Look at the cost of a house. You're trying to buy a house in Barbados, house and land. Deterrent number one. The length of time it takes, another story.
The length of time it takes to and the planning, Kimar. I mean, even if you're looking, suppose they want to come back home and and build a property. I
Right?
know people who have had plans in town planning since February, and they have not. That's February last year. Sorry, February 2024, and they have not received approvals.
Mhm. Right? And this is the second time we're gathering is being rolled out. And the first time it started to flop because the response from the diaspora was definitely um, not there. Remember, it started as the yearly return, similar to what Ghana had in their country as well, and it was almost a copy from what Ghana had. We have to look at the economic circumstances of the persons who are in the diaspora, right? Are they willing to come back to Barbados to pay tourist prices? Right? Tourist prices. So I'm saying, Pastor Fernand, we need to have a better way of engaging the diaspora in a very serious way. There needed to be a set program in place. So see how you had the welcome stamp program where you intentionally welcomed non-nationals to work in Barbados, and do their thing remotely, etc., etc. I think there needs to be a structured program, not that I agree with, socializing, but I don't think it's like coming back to Barbados, a good view in the community. Sorry, but
But it doesn't sound serious. It doesn't sound serious, Kimar. It just doesn't sound serious. I mean, when you consider the number of companies and high net worth clients that have left Barbados because of all the bureaucracy and the incompetence in both private and public sector entities. I know of people who have moved their accounts from here to St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Nevis, and other territories in the Caribbean that have picked up their fund. It doesn't make sense to me that the government is serious about trying to attract the diaspora to invest into Barbados and have done nothing to change the philosophy of governmental operations and all those kind of things. I mean, sorry, look at the roads. Look at the roads. You think I bring in my Land Rover, Range Rover back home to Barbados to drive on these roads? You gotta be kidding. I can stay where I am. Look at the cost of living. I have told people that Barbados is more expensive than the Cayman Islands, and people laughed at me. I've been traveling to the Cayman Islands for 19 years. I can buy a 1,500 kilogram, I think 1,500 gram, I think it is, or whatever it is, box of cornflakes in Grand Cayman. Really, Cayman dollar is stronger than the US for less than I can buy it for here in Barbados.
Pastor Fernando, you're in Africa, where they're encouraging African people of African origin to return to Africa. Um, and they offer you a return home package. So that return home package would involve a heavily subsidized piece of land, you know, easily accessible building materials, and an easy transition for you to return back home with economic circumstances that are substantially easier, or even not easier, they're made easier for you to come back. So incentives to have children if you don't, eh? Economic measures, subsidized, a package of a cash check every month of a substantial amount to get you going for the first. So there's nothing attached to that, or there's nothing like that attached to the gathering. There's nothing. There's like a hollow poof. So come back here for what? When they could take that same money, and because the ticket, they could take that same money and go into South America, go into Africa, or go into another place around the world, which is much cheaper to get to anyhow, and see a better or greener economic opportunity than to come back to Barbados to live under this inflated environment. Just saying.
Sorry, you paused, or you waiting for my response?
Yeah, I finished.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I was just following a few things,
I
a few
just,
things in the
I,
chat. Yeah,
but I
Omar, go
just want
ahead.
to,
Jump
right.
in, jump in.
It's very, very frightening what is happening, and people have to be awakened to the reality of what is taking place economically in our islands. Like I said before, this is a concerted effort to remove the middle class, make it extremely difficult for the middle class to continue living and existing. There was a drain on brain drain and also an economic drain when the diaspora would have left. All right, and wherever they exist now, we have to make it equally attractive to bring them back and for them to continue to exist in our islands. That is not going to happen anytime soon, based on the trajectory that's what it is we're seeing. So definitely, it's going to continue to happen. People are going to find other havens, other parts of the world, and they are going to leave. They're going to ship out with their entire families and set up their businesses and set up their arrangements, in other places. If it is, we continue to stifle our economies, stifle our people, and make it more and more difficult for people to invest and become self-sufficient. It's a move in desperation, I believe, and it's stemming from all the globalist influence that we are fully aware of, and we have to be able to call all our government leaders, our government agencies to account for the crimes that they are committing against the people. Um, they're stripping away our wealth. They're stripping away our ability to live comfortably, to own our homes, to own businesses. They're stripping away our ability to do that. When they divorce you from a permanent job and they give you a contract, that's what they're doing. They're stripping you away of that right to earn, that right to benefit, as you would have seen in the past, right? People are able to benefit via the NIS and the gratuity and the pensions and what have you and so on. When you're under contract, all that is gone. So what is left for the people? Nothing. What is government using the monies for? In Trinidad and Tobago, we know fully well that they would have used up the funds in the NIS, and now people can't get and access their funds for their retirements and so on. They can't. And now they've come up with this grand scheme that if you retire at a certain age, they're going to cut off a certain amount of your benefits. Right? If you retire at age 65, you'll get your full benefits. But if you retire at 60 and retire at 62, 63, and so on, there's certain benefits that they're cutting out from you. So it's they're for being tired, for wanting to rest, for wanting to, enjoy the savings that you have accumulated over the years. They're punishing you, and this is not right. This is not a democracy,
But it
and
just
we
doesn't.
have to understand how serious this is.
It just doesn't make any sense. You know, and Kimar, I am appalled, I would have to say, because I can't think that educated, or what we think to be educated, what we thought to be sensible people who asked us to be elected to parliament to represent us can endorse this kind of operation and not oppose, not confront. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm weary of. Huh? Look, let me tell everybody on this show right now. I do not care what the former Democratic Labour Party government has done or not done. I do not care what the former BLP government has done or not done. This is where we are, and we have to fix it. So don't talk to me about what was done or what was not done or who government did what or what. This is where we are. The one thing I will entertain is a comment that Michael Nurse made. Are we not to ask those who want to lead us what is their solution to the problems we are discussing? And I will embrace that, because if we're discussing issues, there must be solutions. Umar, you are presenting a global position, and I am hearing you say that the people, and I say this cautiously, the people need to rise up. I'm not calling for an insurrection or anything of the sort, but I'm talking about rising up and demanding their leaders accountability, demanding them, holding their feet to the fire, as I mentioned earlier, and demanding of them. Otherwise, we're going to kick you out. And the same thing, I believe, has to be asked of those who are seeking our vote to become the alternative government. Because I think we are reaching a stage, and we've reached a stage, Kimar, where we need to start looking at solutions. We need to start looking at what can be done. And I was happy to hear you make mention of what you felt in terms of one of the ways forward through the philanthropic um, involvement, that aspect. Because I have also heard someone, I won't call their name, they were in leadership and the leadership role in Parliament in Barbados, make the comment that the way forward for Barbados is through philanthropic involvement. Getting those people involved, because many of them are not making the same demands that people like the IMF and the World Bank and so on are making. And to be honest with you, um, we need to start looking at some solutions, because Kimar, the country can't sustain this. I mean, when you go into the supermarket, and I was taught with the rubber meets the road. When you go in the supermarket, when you pull up for gas and diesel, go for the kerosene, go for your 20 or 25 pound cylinder. of gas to cook with. You know what I'm saying? These are the issues that our people are being faced with in the face of what you are telling us. Um, Layoffs, salary cuts, working on and off cuts. All of these are things that are happening. So I'd like, at some point in time, if we could host. You suggested, Umar. I will see what more can be done of getting some other opposition elements in the terms of politically speaking from different territories to come on the show and offer their contributions. But Kimar, I must tell you, when I look at and me myself and my wife are involved in a lot of social work. We're helping people on the ground. We're obtaining things from others and so forth. What, Kimar? What can we do? And we got 5 minutes, and you may not be able to answer in 5 minutes. But what can we do in Barbados to increase our earning capacity as a country?
Father, further to
I don't want
the
you to give away. I don't want you to give away any opposition secrets.
it's not even about opposition secret. Um, I personally think that we spend a lot of money and we waste a lot of money on the largest cabinet we've ever had in the history of Barbados and the barrage of consultants that we pay for solutions. And then sometimes we look at people and ask them for solutions where we look past the people who we pay to bring the solutions. Right? So sometimes I don't come down hard on a fella if he don't share his plans and his thoughts and his ideas openly because we have a lot of plagiarism going on. We have a
Yes,
lot
yeah,
of intellectually dishonest people who have no ideas, no creativity, but they will sit and watch the Marcel show and write down everything that Dr. Umar says, or write down everything that Pastor Ferdinand says, and run off to their handlers and giving the impression that they have this brilliant idea and refuse to engage the people who really and truly have the talent and ideas to push the country forward. So let's be real, Pastor Ferdinand, we have a lot of intellectual leeches and lazy people in positions who do not give you. How often, Pastor Ferdinand, have you seen two people go for a job and the the best person ever who know the job, handle the job, is pushed aside for
yeah,
a daft surf,
yes, yeah. You're
right?
right. You're right. You're right.
So square pegs, round holes. I'm all for plans and ideas and solutions, but I've come to the point right now that we need to ask the government to either resign or step down if they don't have the plan and let the country get the opportunity to choose the right people who have the plans and the ideas. You know, take themselves off the people's backs by now.
And Umar, we got about 2 minutes left in the program. Your closing comments from what we have been engaging, including all, because I see a tying in of what you've been sharing, what Kimar's been sharing, in terms of from the global to the regional to the local. Um, these agendas are all being, networked together.
We have in Trinidad a trend that is developing where, and Kimar pointed it out just a little while ago, where persons are being given jobs who are not qualified to hold those positions. Likewise, in Trinidad, we've seen where, and this is, there's no secret to this, where companies are asking people or hiring people who have received the COVID injection as opposed to those who didn't receive it. Obviously, this is putting people in positions that were not qualified to do the job, but simply because they took the job. We're seeing where persons who are willing to push an agenda of inclusivity, transgender, all these things, they're being given the nod for many positions in government offices and, throughout the industry. So it's alarming to see what is happening. And, truth be told, the only way we can get ourselves out of this, Pastor and Kimar, we have to find a way to be self-sufficient in our communities. We have to be self-sufficient. If we're not self-sufficient, we are continuously going to be dependent on government and government policies and government handouts. And this is going to trap us in a forever revolving door of dependency. And as long as we are dependent, this is where we're going to find ourselves. Once we are sufficient and we make the communities sufficient and we can, sustain ourselves in our communities, we would be able to gradually climb out of this abyss that we find ourselves, and we would no longer be looking towards the philanthropists to come in and save the day. As a matter of fact, we'll create our own philanthropists and we will build our communities, and we are going to be stronger and we are going to be more resilient, of course, because we're no longer dependent. Right? There's a saying, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Well, I want to bite that hand that feeds me because I want to start feeding myself. Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank you guys, and of course, Rose, she's not been able to come back in. Kimar, I really, really want to thank you, and the discussion is by no stretch of the imagination finished. You know, we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to cover, and I believe that if we can keep informing and educating the people, I want to believe that at some point in time, truth will get through. And there's to me nothing that affects people more than when they walk into the supermarket, pull out $100 and find that it don't buy you 5 bags of groceries anymore, but only two, and then they begin to understand what we're talking about and what we're looking at. And I just want to say thank you both, and of course, Rose, even though she's not here, I believe she's still listening. Want to thank all of you for contributing to the show tonight. This has been extremely informative, and of course, Kimar, I'm always happy to have you on. Dr. Umar, I want to thank you for making yourself available for the Monday night shows. I appreciate that so very much. And we'll be certainly engaging you from a number of different perspectives where you can show to the people the global objectives that are being thrust upon us within our communities via our regional entities and so on, and through the funding agencies and so forth. Because you're correct, I saw an article where the United States was able to have a resolution pushed through the UN by consensus, which of course means there was no vote on it, tying funding to accepting persons within the LGBTQ community where it relates to voting. And I had never seen anything relating to anybody's gender selection to do with voting, period. I'd never seen anything to do with that, but they had it tied to funding. And they also had US aid tied to the legislative changes required for
Yeah.
those movements. And you see, you're shaking your head, so you know what
The
I'm talking
culprit.
about.
USAID is a culprit. They
Yeah.
they're on the banner of every single gay pride movement
Yes.
throughout the
Yes.
Caribbean region.
Yeah.
You'll find,
Absolutely.
yeah, USAID. Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking forward. Kimar, I have a couple of Wednesday night shows that I have to check and see the number of guests that I have. I know that all of us are very busy, even though the year has just begun. And I really appreciate your availability for the show on a Monday nights. But we'll chat, concerning any other time that you wish to come in as things come up. I mean, I'm sure there are things that will come up that you may want to address even before we get to Monday. Um, and that is something that we will certainly want to entertain. Oh, there's Rose again, and as we go off the program, Rose, I see you trying to get yourself back in shape as we close off this show for tonight. She's just getting her headphones on. Um, but Kima, I want to thank you so very much. I mean, I really appreciate your education, educating us on these monetary and economic policies. And of course, Umar, as I have expressed, your informing us and educating us on the network and the connections between the globalist entities and what we have happening in our countries and in our communities, which, as I have said before, Kimar, I don't see things that are happening in our economy being homegrown. It's like it's like we have another colonial master. It's not the UK now, it's now the global elitist economic financial entities that we're now beholding to, and again, I really want to thank you guys. Rose, I don't know if you are able to hear us, because we're seeing something that looks very strange, but it definitely is not you. So we just want to say thank you so very much, Rose, for your contribution earlier in the program.
I'm here, Reverend Ferdinand.
Great, wonderful. We're not seeing you. We are seeing a strange pattern on the camera. Um,
Yes, yes, my laptop just seemed to, I was listening all the time. My
okay,
laptop just seemed to have gone, I don't know. And so I'm on myself.
okay. Well, they talk about smart equipment these days, so I'm not surprised that they tend to do what they want to do.
Yes, but I want to plug it to say that it was a good
He
night.
has to flip the
I
camera.
am quite pleased to hear,
Probably has
we're
to
quite
flip the
pleased
camera.
to hear Timar's analysis of the regathering and the responses, the most likely responses from those persons who will want to come, the retired persons in the diaspora. And I do hope that we will be able to audit the successes of the regathering in terms of all the projections that have been made by this government for this event um, for the next months, and the money spent on doing it. We will continue to monitor and make our constructive contributions. Thank you again, Pastor Ferdinand, for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you so much for making yourself available to help educate us and inform us. Again, thank you, Kimar. Thank you, Umar. And thank you, Rose. And loyal opposition, thank you for staying with us all through this session. We appreciate all your comments. I'm very forthright. I speak straight. I don't mix my words. I thank you for your contributions. If I have to respond in a manner that you may not be happy with, well, so be it. But I want to see things happen to carry us forward, and I don't have time to be looking back. We've had enough of that. We need to look forward. So rather than talking about what this administration did or did not do, or that administration did or did not do, this is where we are. This is what we need to fix. So let's start looking at how we can engage that. And if in so doing, it means there has to be a change of government, there have to be a removal of persons who are not producing. We have to find people who have an interest in our country and in our societies and in our people, and not just in getting into Parliament and Senate to fatten their coffers and fatten their pockets. We need to find people who have a genuine interest and who can bring solutions and who can bring representation for the people to the Parliament of Barbados, because I am not seeing that happening. I don't care what anybody has to say. I'm not seeing it happening. Umar, I know you would have your own view where that is concerned there in Trinidad, and I have no doubt that it is going to be very similar to ours. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank you, Loyal Opposition, for being here with us tonight. Of course, we are going to ask you to keep Marcia in your prayers as she's traveling in Kenya and Africa. We wish her all the best. She has been posting some snippets of what she's been doing there in Kenya, and I hope that you've been able to follow them on the YouTube channel. So until we get together again next Monday, I think, Kimar, we have got this Monday program to be called the CARICOM Loyal Opposition because of the mixture that we now have. And we want to say thanks to all of you and wish you a great, great night and a great, great 2025. God bless you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.